We are live from Stuttgart, Germany, the 2007 Gymnastics World Championships. Day 2 of competition here on WCSN, the home of world champions. My name is Bart Connor, former Olympic and world champion in gymnastics, and I'm proud today to be joined by two-time world medalist Raj Bhavsar, former member of the national team, and glad to have you working with us today, Raj.
Thank you very much, Bart. It's great to be here.
Day 2 of 5 exciting days of competition will feature the men's team final. You see the top 8 teams in the world who have qualified into this session. China, the heavy favorite based on their qualifying scores and their recent history. They are expected to be challenged closely by Japan. You see the list in the first rotation. China and Japan will perform back-to-back in what we call Olympic order, which to the gymnastics enthusiasts out there is floor, horse, rings, vault, P-bars, and high bar. And they will finish up on the thrilling high bar event. It's likely to come down to the final performances today of the top 8 teams in the world as to who wins gold, silver, and bronze. You're getting a look at a team that will get a great deal of attention today. That is the team from Germany. As this event is coming live from Germany, Germany and the United States will open up on the pommel horse in the first rotation. And the German team qualified third. And the American men, a terrific performance and a big comeback from last year's World Championships, where the U.S. men placed 13th in the team competition. They qualified 4th with an outstanding effort in the qualifying round here and have a shot at a medal today.
Good luck and all the best for the competition. You've got 90 seconds.
Raj, it's good to have you here, and normally you're out there competing with the guys. How does it feel to be in the booth instead?
Oh, this is definitely the other side of the spectrum. It feels good, though. You know, I'm looking forward to an exciting competition today. It's really anybody's ball game with this 3-up, 3-count format. You really can't afford any large errors. And, you know, I believe it's going to come down to the last few events, and when the dust settles, the team that hits the most clean routines is probably going to come out ahead.
Well, those are the best 8 teams in the world. The top 12 teams in the world qualified from here to compete as full teams at the Olympic Games in Beijing, China. A lot of exciting gymnastics coming up over the next 3 hours. Don't go away. Gymnastics World Championships next. We are back live in Stuttgart, Germany for the 2007 Artistic Gymnastics World Championships. I'm Bart Connor along with Raj Bhavsar, and we are set to begin the competition. China opens up on the floor, and the host country of Germany, all eyes will be on these young men, open on the perilous pommel horse. This is Eugene Spiridanov, who grew up in Russia and emigrated to Germany in 2001. The World Championships in 2005, he was 10th place in the all-around. Big expectations for the German team today as they qualified in 3rd position. High hopes for a medal for the host country.
That's right, Bart. And just to let our viewers know, it's definitely not easy to start on an event like pommel horse. A lot of nerves, and with the 3-up, 3-count format, you know, you really want to just hit your set the best you can and dismount and set it up for the next guy. And it looks like Germany's doing that here.
Nice combinations throughout that exercise. Clean execution. Eugene Spiridanov. A sense of happiness, but as you say, also a sense of relief that you got through the first event, pommel horse, which is the gut check of all gymnastics. They are unlucky, perhaps, to have drawn pommel horse in the first rotation, but there is an enormous sense of relief, much like the balance beam is for the women, when you get through that event. China will be up on the floor first. Chen Yibing will be their first performer, the 23-year-old from Beijing. He is the reigning world champion on the rings.
And important to note here, Bart, that the Chinese have really improved on floor, actually. They have 2 finalists in this rotation coming up for them, so expect some big numbers.
Based on the qualifying rounds in the first 2 days of competition, the top 8 will go to the individual apparatus finals, which we'll have on the weekend.
Nice
live on WCSN. China, not only because of their history of 7 World Championship team titles, but the quality of the gymnastics, expected to come away with the gold medal here.
Wow, it's one of those combination passes in which gymnasts can gain some connection bonus tenths.
We talk about 3 up, 3 count. We'll also be talking all day about start values and what we call the A panel score for the gymnasts. It's important to note that China, if you add up all the A panel scores of all of their gymnasts who will compete today, their A panel score would be 123 points. 6.3 points more than Japan, who qualified in 2nd place. So, in theory, if the team from China hits, they have a 6.3 point buffer over the 2nd place team. That's how strong they are in terms of difficulty in their exercises, Raj.
And that's, just goes exactly along the lines of to show how dominant the Chinese are this quadrennium.
The score for Eugene Spiridonov, 14.6. He had a 5.7 A panel score, or degree of difficulty score. Robert Juckel next for Germany on the horse.
Tricky element there in the beginning, the full spindle.
Juckel's a 25-year-old from Cottbus, Germany. This is his favorite event. Some of these guys just hang out all day long on one pommel, Raj.
Yeah, they do. This is a very tricky event. You have to be so precise, and the competition format doesn't give you any flexibility for mistakes, for sure. So you can notice sometimes that some of these gymnasts might look like they're holding back a little bit, and that's just the nerves, and you can see the relief on his face.
He has some experience. He was a member of their Olympic team in 2004. Raj, you were an alternate to that team. The Germans, 8th place in the Olympics. In last year's World Championships, only 7th place. So the fact that they're contending for a medal in these World Championships at home is a terrific improvement for Germany. The score for Chen Yibing, 15.15.
And that's a good starting score for them. These next 2 guys for China really have an opportunity to really pull away on floor.
Chen Yibing scored a 15.075 in the qualifying round, so a little bit better in today's team final.
The Chinese were ranked 2nd on floor coming in.
Liang Fu Liang, 23-year-old from Beijing. This is his favorite event. Oh, nice.
Oh, very nice. Full twisting double layout. Notice the slightly large step out of that. That's a 3/10 deduction.
Oh, nice combination.
One of those tricky combination passes. You'll see a lot of gymnasts ending their combination passes in rollout elements like that there to avoid landing deductions.
Liang Fu Liang, this is his 4th appearance in the World Championships. It's interesting with those front tumbling combinations. It doesn't take much to get off, and once you are out of balance or your timing is off on those bounding skills, boy, you can really rack up some deductions. You lose the connection bonus, you lose the value of skills. They're much riskier than they appear.
Absolutely. All it takes is for you to be under or over rotated, and that 2nd or 3rd skill can be completely off.
2.5 twister for a dismount for Liang Fu Liang. Scored a 15.7 in the qualifying round, so as you noted, those combination tumbling skills really allow you to have a very high start value on floor.
You'll also notice that these more gymnasts are opting to do these combination passes rather than the larger tumbling elements. Not necessarily a direction I wanted to see floor go in, but these are where the gymnasts are getting the most bonus points, so it's the direction that they're going to head versus doing skills like layout double-double and triple backs.
See the score for Zhukel. He had a 5.6 start value. Pommel horse is one of those events. It's extremely difficult to get a high start value score because, different from the last code of points, there are no connection bonuses on the pommel horse and on the parallel bars. So you have to stay up there all day long to rack up some difficulty value, Raj.
That's correct. We call this the flop sequence. Several hand placements on one pommel. To stay well balanced, he was a little off there and he fought through it.
Okay, Thomas Andergassen.
And the Germans counting 3 hit sets on pommel horse.
Oh, you know they're relieved about that. Andergassen from Stuttgart. He's a local boy, so a lot of additional enthusiasm for him, but of course the accompanying pressure as well. This is his 4th World Championship appearance. The German team looking very focused. Liang Fu Liang, 15.325, less than his score in the qualifying round by nearly 4/10 of a point.
And you could see he was a little off there. It looked like the rhythm wasn't flowing as fluid as it could have been, and the judges take notice to those things.
Zhou Kai ready to go for China on floor. He's just 19 years of age. He looks about 12.
I know, and this should be an exciting set part.
Oh, isn't that something?
One of those DD combinations, very rare on floor exercise. Racks up some connection bonus there. Nice tuck double-double.
He was a top scorer in the qualifications on this event. He's the youngest member of the team, and this is, of course, one of his best events. Oh, my goodness.
Rip layout, Thomas.
And so clean.
Very clean. Difficult. Still going. 4 passes in, another combination pass. 1.5 full Rudy.
In my era, you looked for a gymnast to do a one big tumbling pass and maybe a decent tumbling pass for the final run, and the others were sort of filler, but this is basically his 6th tumbling pass coming here, and all of them have been world class.
That's right.
Wow.
Nice full in.
Well, the 19-year-old, his power is deceptive. He doesn't even look like he would be that strong, does he?
No, and it's an amazing set. It's jam-packed with difficulty, and he did it relatively clean. It should score great for the Chinese.
This is a combination of good power, but mostly technique, because you got to have power to do a double-double, there's no question, but the technique that he showed in those combination tumbling runs was impeccable. Thomas Andergassen, 14.65, 44 points for Germany in the first rotation. Good start on the pommel horse.
You'll notice there are some small deductions, leg separations. Those types of things in a pommel horse routine can really add up in the end when the judges decide to take their final deductions.
To the vault, Gervasio de Fer from Spain, 2-time Olympic champion in this event.
Good Yurchenko, 2.5. Slightly squatted down on the landing. That might cost him a 3/10 deduction. However, it's a relatively clean vault, and he's been doing it for a long time. Good start for Spain.
16 points. And Spain, on the event that is considered the highest scoring after this first half of the first rotation, will take the team lead. We're watching some performances on tape from the first half of rotation 1 that we didn't see while we were watching the Chinese on floor and the Germans on pommel horse. We're in for a treat here. Safoshkin of Russia.
Definitely look at his ring positions and his strength elements, how low he is, how incredibly hard that is. He's one of the players on rings, definitely for Russia. He's a world finalist. Will be again here at Stuttgart.
He's a perfect example of an athlete who is essentially a specialist. He does not compete in the all-around, usually just does rings and parallel bars for the Russian team. Scored a 16.1 in the qualifying round. At 31 years of age, he's the oldest guy in these team finals. Hard to believe he quit gymnastics, went 7 years into the circus, and then came back to be a factor. 15.95, a very good score for Russia on the rings. Back to the incredible combinations from Zhou Kai on the floor. 15.7 his score, about a half a point less than his score in the qualifying round. Interesting.
It's strange, right? You know, I'm not sure if he took something out of this routine. I definitely know that the small landing deductions after every pass, those can add up.
48.05. Now expect the vault scores typically to be the highest event score. So all of these numbers are relative until everyone's done a vault, because you could be in 4th place, and once you hit vault, typically the team scores in vaulting are considerably higher than the other events, and it's all academic until everyone has at least gone through vault. Kevin Tan now will be the first performer for the United States on the pommel horse.
As a U.S. national team member, I've had an opportunity to train with Kevin several times, and I just want to point out how improved this gymnast is.
Beautiful.
Nice. One of those scissor to handstand elements, and he does it again. Just look at how strong he is.
Doesn't hurt to have those big guns for arms, huh? Wow.
It's a pretty good set so far. You'll notice a little bit of skewing on those travels, what the judges are looking for, that travel the horse with your body straight ahead rather than skewing off to one side. And good set by Kevin Tan.
That's what the United States team needs. They do not have the difficulty value of China or Japan, so they need hit routines, and Kevin Tan, the 25-year-old from Fremont, California, lives in State College, Pennsylvania, was a Penn State gymnast. We'll see him not only in these team finals, but of course he made the rings event final, the Battle of the Strongman, which will be on this weekend live on WCSN. For Japan, Hisashi Mizutori set to go on the floor. Mizutori scored a 15.7 in the qualifying round. He's the 27-year-old. Originally was the alternate on this team, but his teammate Takehiro Kashima broke his hand on the pommel horse while training here in Stuttgart. And so Mizutori got the call to step up and compete for Japan.
One and a half full, Rudy. My hat's off to this gymnast. You know, it's not easy to get called out here and replace one of your teammates, but Mizutori's done an unbelievable job.
Sure has. In fact, he qualified for the all-around finals, floor final, and high bar final. Yeah. So for being called from the sidelines, that's pretty impressive.
helped the Japanese here. In the prelims, they were first place on this event.
The judges on floor, of course, look for tumbling combinations, a skill like you saw on the floor, that hopping Fedorchenko, which is a non-tumbling combination. There are essentially 4 gymnastic element groups plus the dismount, and they add up the 10 best, highest value skills in the routine, 9 plus the dismount, and that is how they calculate the A panel score. And boys, you have to be like Einstein to calculate these scores anymore. In my era, it wasn't that hard, but now it's really something, isn't it?
It has. It has. It's gotten a little bit more difficult. You'll even find some gymnasts that, what's going on here? Just to give you a quick breakdown, the easier skills, A's are worth 1/10, the B's are 2/10, C is 3, a D is 4/10, an E is 5/10, and an F is 6th. And what that means, basically, skills are rated according to their level of difficulty.
14.525. You see the score for Kevin Tan. Very good start for the American men on the pommel horse.
Up next, we've got the reigning U.S. national champion.
I really like David Durani's style. He's clean. He has adequate difficulty, but a really very polished gymnast.
I like to think clean and mean.
He was an alternate to last year's World Championship team. The U.S. Championships, he won the all-around, as you mentioned, and the parallel bars.
Very good here so far. One thing you notice is his toe.
Oh, no! Oh, what a shock. That was going so smoothly.
Well.
Now, what happens in that case? You not only lose the value of the skill, but, of course, the fall is a substantial deduction.
Right, and it may look like he didn't fall completely off the horse, but he came to a complete stop, which is the equivalent of a fall. That's going to be an 8/10 deduction. Look at there. You see his hand just missed the horse.
Hard to tell what happened exactly. It looked like his body position and technique was quite good.
Everything was good, and this is what can happen in pommel horse and in gymnastics. It's almost, these elements are so intricate. All it takes is a hand slip for you to be off, just like that.
15.425 for Mizutori on the floor. A few shaky landings.
15.425.
Mizutori almost 3/10 of a point less than what he qualified with.
What we're seeing here, Bart, actually on floor, the scores are dramatically lower than the qualifying session.
Takuya Nakase, the 26-year-old from Tokyo. Last year's World Championships, he was a member of their third-place team and 6th in the all-around.
Nice tuck double-double. You're going to see that from a lot of gymnasts. Quite popular pass. Again, it's a 1.5 full Rudy, and you see the little shuffle of the feet. Oh! A little under-rotated on that punch layout double full. Call that a Thomas.
This is the style these days, really basically 4 diagonal passes. The 5th pass, what we call a side pass, although technically it's not actually going down the side. And then a 6th tumbling pass. That is what's changed in gymnastics most dramatically, is that without giving the gymnast any more time than back in my era when we did 4 tumbling passes, now they have to squeeze 6 tumbling passes in the same amount of time. That's nuts.
Incredible. And the level of conditioning that takes. In my training, you have to step up your regiment almost double to get through 6 difficult tumbling passes. Your legs definitely feel it when you're going into that last tumbling pass. You're in that corner.
And your arms, too, they feel like concrete weights, don't they? Gymnastics is basically an anaerobic activity. The longest exercise is barely over 1 minute. So it's not like an endurance like a marathon runner. It's more like the endurance of a 400-meter runner. Right. It's a full-out sprint for about 1:10, and
You're demanding a lot out of your muscles, pushing them to the max within that 1 minute.
That move is called a laid-out Thomas, invented by America's first male world champion, Kurt Thomas, back in the 1978. Oh, my goodness, Kurt, he won that a few years back. Looking at almost 30 years ago, Kurt Thomas invented that move, and it's popular to this day.
It's got to be pretty nice to see that.
14.225 for David Durante.
You know, actually, that's not a bad score.
14.5 was his score in the qualifying round, and he hit much cleaner. Interesting.
Very interesting.
So scores might be a little tighter on floor, but perhaps a little generous on pommel horse.
Absolutely.
Here is the reigning bronze medalist in the World Championships. He's one of the few guys in the world who can bring you to your feet with a pommel horse routine.
I love this
Sasha
routine.
Artemov.
Watch his lines coming up near the middle of his set here. This is that flop sequence.
Couple of minor form breaks.
That's right. This is a tricky element here.
Oh,
and he got it.
Full care.
Look at the extension and the leg separation of the flares here. The amplitude above the pommel. It's very nice. It's going good so far.
You know, this is a heavily partisan German crowd, but they have to acknowledge that that is just world class on the pommel horse. Sasha Artemov with a little extra pressure because of Durante's mistake, but once he saw Durante's score, he probably felt, well, we're all right, we're going to be okay.
And I'm sure that's what he was thinking. You know, he just wanted to get through this pommel horse routine the best he can.
This combination is just insane. You look at his power, it's also deceptive because he's very lean, but the guy is very strong. The key in gymnastics is your strength to weight ratio. 15.075 the score for Nakasi on the floor. Nakasi had a 15.675, so 0.6 of a point less than his qualifying score. So the judges seem to be a little stricter on the hops and shaky landings than perhaps they were in the qualifying round. Oh!
Look at that. Springs in his legs.
Makoto Okiguchi.
It's a floor finalist.
We'll get a chance to see that routine again on the day one of event finals from Stuttgart. Okiguchi is 21. He's coached by Koji Gushikin, 1984 Olympic all-around champion. He's the youngest member of the Japanese team. Oh, sweet.
Nice. Transitional elements between each tumbling passage gymnast. Usually do these transitional elements. The judges have placed more emphasis on these transitions during this quadrennium, and a nice full-in dismount. But I'll notice a little more control landings from this Japanese gymnast. It's a very good routine. It should score well.
Okiguchi competed on floor, horse, rings, and vault in day one of this competition. The qualifying round, the gymnasts 6 on a team, 5 compete on each event, and 4 scores count towards their qualifying total. In the team final, just 3 up and 3 count. So the way you build a team these days is much different than in my era. You build a team with a combination of 3 and 4 and 5 event specialists more than necessarily all-arounders.
Right.
Yang Tae-young of Korea on vault as we look on tape at his 2.5 twister. Yang Tae-young, of course, with his 16.075.
That vault starts at a 16.6, and you see the final score is 16.075. That means somewhere in there the judges had roughly about 0.6 in deductions. And a bulk of those deductions come from that large step there. It's a 0.3 deduction.
Yang Tae-young, of course, the bronze medalist at the Olympics. And part of the Paul Ham Yang Tae-young fiasco, which stayed in the media a long time, and it was controversial, but Paul Hamm deservedly ended up with the gold medal at the Olympics in 2004, and Yang Tae-young was the third place.
And that is one of the more difficult elements on rings. It's called a Maltese push to invert.
While we were focusing on the other teams, Romania opened on the rings. This is George Stanescu.
A little short on those holds.
Basically, the judges are looking for 2 seconds in each of those strength positions. He is moving through them pretty quickly.
He is. The judges will notice that, and there he's actually taking a little bit too long in that inverted hang. You want to keep the flow of the routine at an even, steady pace.
15.325 reflected in his score. So Romania not off to a terrific start. They're in 5th of the teams here. The Gymnastics World Championships continues when we come back. As we get set for round 2 of a 6-rotation competition, Sasha Artemev 14.775. A clutch performance after a slightly difficult effort. Kevin Tan was good for the United States, and then David Durante had an uncharacteristic mistake. Artemev followed up with his strong pommel horse routine. You can see why he's a world medalist there. Makoto Okiguchi, you see his score for this terrific combination. Opening tumbling run. We'll see more of him in the event finals. Later this week from Stuttgart, 5 exciting days of competition. Here are the team standings after the first rotation. Spain and Korea, who both opened up on the vault, are our leaders. Vault is typically the highest scoring of all the events. China, a solid start on the floor. Russia in 4th, strong on the rings. Japan was on the floor, and they were clean. You see the rest of the field. Romania, Germany, and the United States. We'll be back with rotation 2 in a moment. Don't go away. We are back live from Stuttgart, Germany. The 40th Artistic Gymnastics World Championships. I'm Bart Connor, along with Raj Bavzar, winner of 2 silver medals at the World Championships in both 2001 and 2003. Raj, we're getting set now as the 2 favorites in the team competition. Japan and China take to the pommel horse. This is Yosuke Hoshi, the 21-year-old from Chiba, Japan.
And the Japanese usually have a solid pommel horse team. What they really need to focus on is just hitting routines and staying clean. We're 4th on this event in the qualifying session. Pretty good routine here so far. This is the scissor sequence.
It's kind of clever.
Yeah, a little unique. And a very cleanly executed routine.
Now, as an athlete, you have to really juggle the idea that you're going to go for the hardest routine, but the one that you can also do cleanly with good execution. How do you, under these new rules, build that routine that's best for you?
You know, and that's been a strategy for most of the gymnasts now. In the past, we didn't have to worry about that with the 10-0 cap on every routine. Your main goal was to reach that 10-0, and once you reached the 10-0, you worked on perfecting the routine. Now, got 2 different options. You can shave out some difficulty and just focus on execution, or you can go for the big tricks.
Jonathan Horton for the United States, the 21-year-old, competes for the University of Oklahoma. Mark Williams and Rustam Sharipov, his coaches there.
Very good on these Maltese positions.
The U.S. team is quite a strong rings team.
They are, and that's good to see. After a little bit of a falling out on this event for the past couple of years at World Championships, this U.S. team has really brought themselves back to the forefront.
Horton is the highest ranking all-arounder in this group. But then there's Sean Golden and Kevin Tan, who are spectacular 4 and 5 event guys.
Ring specialists at
really
that.
Nice exercise for Horton. We'll see a lot of him throughout these championships. He'll be in the all-around final for the United States.
And he's a great leadoff guy for an event like rings. He's setting up his 2 other teammates for really good routines. It's always nice to see that first guy set the tone for the rest of the team on each event.
He was a part of last year's World Championship team effort. Did not have a particularly good meet at the Worlds in Aarhus, and so I think I see some renewed intensity on this team. Don't you, Raj? There seems to be a level of confidence that we didn't see last year.
There is, and you know, I was speaking with Kevin Majajka earlier, head coach of the U.S. men's team, and he was telling me that this team gels well together and has a lot of fire in them. Probably feeling a little bit of the weight of redemption from last year's Worlds. And
after the U.S. team won the silver medal in the 2004 Olympic Games, 2005 World Championships, they did not contest team awards. And then, as you see the score for Hoshi, 15.075 for Japan on the pommel horse. So the U.S. team dropped all the way to 13th place in the team competition last year at the Worlds, and so that was in many respects a wake-up call that encouraged guys like you, Raj Bavzar, to come back out of retirement, and Paul and Morgan Hamm, and even Blaine Wilson. So there are a lot of stars in the mix as we look ahead to the Olympics in Beijing next year. Mizutori will be next for Japan on the pommel horse.
that element is called a full care. She did in the beginning. These are the travels across the horse I spoke about, and the judges are looking for the amount of skewness. Here's that flop sequence.
Skewness, is that a word?
Skewness. That's what everyone seems to call it.
When they travel down the length of the horse, they want to be completely square to the body of the horse as opposed to being skewed, right?
Exactly.
Pretty clean. Scored only a 14.55 on pommel horse in the qualifying rounds, but a 14.55 on horse these days is a pretty good score.
That's a pretty decent score. You know, one thing I'm noticing here is that a lot of gymnasts are not fulfilling the full requirement on their dismounts. You're required to dismount with at least a D dismount, and you know, I'm sure nerves and fatigue goes into this a little bit, but you'll see maybe here on the dismount that he just goes up to the handstand, and usually you're supposed to do some sort of pirouetting travel down the horse to fulfill that D, and he just hops right down. That's only a C, and that's going to cost him a few tenths in the category requirement.
It's a good point. In fact, you do things a little bit differently in the team final because it's 3 up, 3 count. It's kind of controversial because you want to do the best routine you can, but also you want to do a safe routine.
Right.
15.15 the score for Jonathan Horton for the U.S. on the rings. Horton had a 15.325 in the qualifying round. So the scores seem to be just a little tighter today, which I think is good as long as they're all relative.
I think that's normal because all the teams are in one arena at the same time for the judge to judge versus 8 different subdivisions in the prelims.
Sean Golden out of Camden, New Jersey, training with you down there.
Watch this, Bart. This is just superhuman. That right there.
That's just nuts.
That's called a bounce Maltese. And then he pushes back out into a planche there for some connection bonus. And
anytime you do strength moves that go in an ascending phase like that from across up to a Maltese, you have the chance to get connection bonus. That's a lot of stuff in that routine. He's your training partner down there in Houston.
That's right. I've worked tirelessly with him on this dismount coming up here. We'll see what the U.S. team decide to do, either the D or C dismount. And it's just a double A out, which is a C. Like I said, requirement for all teams on all events is to dismount with a D or better. So he will incur a small deduction for that.
But a good score
Good score.
for Sean Golden. Probably a smart move in the pressure-packed team final to not take an unnecessary risk. 15-1-2-5 for Mizutori.
And that's a good score on
Pommel Horse. Absolutely. In fact, 0.7 of a point higher than his qualifying score. So Japan looking very good here. Hiroyuki Tomita,
finalist on this event. Another gymnast to watch. His lines and toe points, they're just exquisite.
2005 world all-around champion. He was the silver medalist to Yang Wei from China last year at the Worlds.
He just looks like he's in so much control with everything he does.
There is a sense of calm when you watch him perform.
Absolutely. I really like it. He's got an artistic value to his gymnastics.
Some gymnasts, you have the sense that at any minute they're going to fall.
Exactly.
In his case, even on the high bar, when he does risky release moves, you somehow feel like he's going to be okay. I don't know what it is about him.
Makes it look easy, that's for sure. And that's that D dismount that I was mentioning, so he fulfilled that requirement. And that's an excellent set.
The 2003 World Championships where you competed, Raj, he was second in the all-around to American Paul Hamm. The Olympics, he was sixth in the all-around in 2004.
And he's a great gymnast. He, when the dust settles, he's usually near the top, and I definitely think he's going to be one of the medal contenders for the all-around competition.
It's so hard to be a great all-around gymnast in this day and age because the type of gymnast that's good on the floor and the horse and the vault and the rings is very different. The body style is different. Their strengths and weaknesses are different.
Absolutely.
So to be a balanced gymnast under the current code of points is really just flat out remarkable.
It is. It is. My hat's off to him.
Kevin Tan, this could be a highlight for the United States on rings.
And this is definitely his best event. The positions there. That's the Maltese push to invert.
Planning a 7.3 start value on this routine based on his difficulty if he can put it all together.
That's called the Nazarian to L cross, and he pulls out of that so easily. It's like he's swinging P-bars.
Oh, after all that,
wow.
From a cross pull to Maltese.
Notice a little bit of swing he's picked up. Judges might notice that. And, oh, good routine. A little bit of pike down on the dismount. What the judges want to see on these dismounts is that you're in total control and you can actually kick out and show some flair rather than piking down the landings.
Japan having a very good day on the pommel horse, 15.5 for Tomita, higher than his qualifying round. And Kevin Tan was strong for the United States on the rings. In fact, some gymnastics fans might remember last year he had food poisoning at the World Championships and could not get through that difficult strength sequence on the rings. Basically just ran out of gas. And so looking a lot fresher and cleaner
Absolutely.
this year. Chinese team will set up the pommels and get them ready for what could be a dazzling display on the pommel horse. Kevin Tan, solid positions throughout on this ring routine. 15.825. Nice score. He had a 16.05. Slightly better in the qualifying round, but in general, it looks like all the scores are just a notch lower, which I think is good.
That's right.
Provides some separation.
Absolutely. You know, you want to separate the best from the best. That element there is a pike bell. Ooh, pike morasue, we call that. P-bars is one of these events where training day in and day out, elements like that where you catch on your upper arm, shoulders, triceps, and biceps, and elbows can really take a beating.
Yu Wong Chul
does another one.
He's just beating himself up, isn't he? The Korean team on the parallel bars. This is the first performance of parallel bars we've seen today. Basically, there are 4 events going simultaneously, And the top teams in the world get the benefit of competing in Olympic order. Yu won Chuo 15.75, so
it's a good score. And actually, the Koreans are very good on parallel bars.
Lots of difficulty. Here are the standings. At the halfway point of the second rotation, Korea in the lead, Romania, Japan, United States in fourth. Don't go away. We are back at the 2007 Artistic Gymnastics World Championships. Huang Shu from China on the pommel horse now. We could be in for a treat.
Yep.
China is spectacular everywhere, but
definitely on the pommel horse.
Wow.
He looks a little bit rough on some of these sequences, but altogether I'm sure it's packed with difficulty.
28-year-old from Beijing is the oldest member of the Chinese team, two-time Olympian. Chinese won their first Olympic team title in 2000 in Sydney, Australia, but had a very disappointing performance in 2004, placing only 5th when they were expected to win in Athens, Greece.
And that's a nice set by Huang Shu. Notice he swings a little bit faster than everybody else. Every gymnast has their own style.
You kind of rip around that pommel horse, if I remember correctly.
I've been known to almost take off sometimes like a helicopter.
Philippe Boy from Germany had a terrific competition in the qualifying round. The 10th highest all-arounder.
That was a Pineda to L cross. Pulled to a Maltese.
You mentioned Pineda, Tony Pineda from Mexico, one of the great gymnasts who competed for UCLA many years ago. If you are the first to do a skill in major international competition, it can be named after you. So those moves are called Yamawakis. There's a Bobzar on the rings.
Derived from a Pineda type element.
Right. So you stole that move from him? Is that
worked from it.
Okay. Actually, if we called out every name of every skill, it would be, you know, Honma, Yamawaki, O'Neill, Gusogi.
Oh.
Pike double front with a half dismount. That's a tough dismount to do.
It is, and some gymnasts are opting to go that route in this code because of the D requirement. Some don't exactly have the technical know-how to do the back twisting elements, so they figure the pike and tuck forward elements are an easier route for them.
Philippe Boy tends to excel on the swing type events. Ring's not his strongest. Huang Shu, a 15.275.
And that's a good score for China.
It is very good. About a 1/10 of a point less than what he scored in the qualifying round.
And they have their two best coming up.
Oh, and boy, can these guys do it.
Yes.
Yang Wei, who is maybe the most balanced gymnast in the world. Hard to find a weakness anywhere with the current world all-around champion and leader of this team.
Full spindle element there. He is a finalist on this event. Scissor sequence. Judges are looking for leg separation and height above the pommels on those. Chinese make the swing look so effortless. It's one thing we in the gymnastics community always notice about their gymnastics. Solid set.
Which is typical of Yang Wei. Not necessarily over-the-top spectacular like Sasha Artemev, but a reliable performer on the pommel horse for sure.
Very
you can
much.
see why he's the winner of 10 world and Olympic medals. He's the all-around runner-up at the 2000 Olympics.
And you can see it in his eyes, Bart. He wants that Olympic gold next year.
All eyes will be on China at home. The best team in the world hosting the Olympics. I think most other countries are thinking, well, we'd be happy with a silver or bronze.
A race for silver. Let's just get a medal. But then again, anything can happen. And these guys know that.
I think, you know, this 3-up, 3-count format is very interesting along those lines because on paper you can be the best team in the world, but look what we saw yesterday in the women's team competition. Kramarenko from Russia made an error in judgment, touched the springboard and the vaulting horse.
That's right.
She should have known better. I blame her coaches for not informing her of the rules that if you touch the springboard or the vaulting horse and do not perform a vault, you get a 0, and of course the 0 dropped Russia out of the bronze medal on the podium to last place. A devastating finish, and so anything can happen. A botched vault, a broken handguard, an injured athlete during a performance. We saw with the Chinese team back at the World Championships in 2001, a torn bicep in the first rotation for one of the Chinese performers. He had to jump off the rings, and that basically bagged their effort.
That's right.
I think they have to have some kind of modification to the rules in that consideration, because what if you have a serious injury like a torn bicep here, you have to jump down. That's just unfortunate.
That's right.
And it's devastating for the team. Wouldn't it be better if you could have a gymnast warmed up and waiting in the wings in case something like that happens, that you could place a guy up there and at least get a score instead of having to take something somewhere between a 0 and 5?
You know, I agree with you because you want to give the opportunity to these athletes and teams to at least be competitive. God forbid something outside of the gymnastics realm happens, handguard, injury. It'd be nice to have that little cushion.
15.5, 2.5 for Yang Wei. Slightly higher than his score by 5/100ths of a point in the qualifying round. So China, as can be predicted.
Oh, now watch this bar. This is a treat. This should be packaged up as an instructional DVD on pommel horse. Look at his swing.
First of all, look at his body line. He's about 112 pounds. He's so high above the horse.
Look at that amplitude above the pommel.
I've never seen
someone like a board.
Swing so straight. Oh,
wow, look at him just cooking through this. It's just great to see, even as a current athlete, that the human body can perform at this kind of level.
You know, there's no question that Xiao Qin, the 22-year-old from Beijing, all the other gymnasts in the gym, regardless of how competitive you are, you have to acknowledge, okay, he's just like...
He's a class above everybody else.
And I like that about the gymnastics community, because you as a competitor, just say hats off, buddy. You're just the best.
Much respect.
Because you know how hard it is. That's the point.
I absolutely.
Every other gymnast in the building says that's just nuts. How do you do that?
And to the average fan, he just made that look incredibly easy.
Right. Robert Zschückel from Germany, 14.925. I'm sure we'll expect a big score for Xiao Qin, the two-time world champion, as we look at Thomas Andergassen, set to go for Germany on the rings. He's their final performer there. We saw Philippe Boy, the score for Robert Zschückel. Andergassen, the 27-year-old. Last year, Germany was 7th in the team competition at the 2006 Worlds.
A little short on that Maltese position and
too high.
A little high on that invert. Shoulders are above the rings.
Basically, in terms of angles, give us the perspective and exactly what the judges are looking for on those cross positions and inverts.
Well, up to 15 degrees is no deduction, so they allow slight variation.
Up to 15 degrees off of the complete horizontal.
Horizontal of the rings, right.
Sometimes it's deceiving because some guys have hyperextended elbows and it's hard to exactly...
And it's also deceiving because the rings are on a podium and the judges are sitting so low, so the angle of vision can actually throw off your score.
It is interesting because the judges actually see them appear to be lower into the rings than you and I see them from the television angles.
That's right.
This is a little high, for instance.
So a high Maltese could look flat in their eyes.
Right.
And then anything above 15 degrees begins your deductions from 1/10 to 3/10, 5/10 being unrecognizable.
Okay, expect a big score here, 16-225. That's just out of this world.
For pommel horse especially.
Yeah, when on pommel horse a 14.5 is considered a very good score. 16-225 for China. They are starting to pour it on. To the vault. Maxim Devyatovsky from Russia. Oh, no. And what a disappointing competition for Russia in the opening qualifying round. Two major injuries to Nikolai Kryukov.
And this vault is a blind landing, so the ground kind of surprises you almost every time you do it. Looked like he had great control. Not sure if he needed to put his hand down. Maybe could have opted with a large step, but there's such little time to think. Your body just reacts.
The Russian team is beat up. Anton Golotsikov was the other performer who broke his foot during the qualifying round. There's been lots of injuries at these World Championships, and I'm not sure if it's a manifestation of the high level of difficulty being required as we look at Rafael Martinez of Spain on
I think
parallel bars.
Definitely is a correlation there, Bart.
We could go through the list of top gymnasts. In the past, maybe several of the, let's say, marginal gymnasts have been injured, but in this case, several of the best in the world are dealing with injuries, including Kyle Schufelt, fractured both legs here, warming up training sessions. He's the Olympic champion on the floor. Kashima from Japan, the Ukrainians, Justin Spring from the United States, and your teammate Sean Townsend from the United States struggling with a bicep inflammation. So injury is certainly one element of the storyline here in Stuttgart. More World Gymnastics coming up. Welcome back to Stuttgart, Germany, the World Gymnastics Championships. Thomas Andergassen, 15:025 for Germany. They have gotten off to a respectable start, but they are on two of the lower scoring events typically for them, the pommel horse and the rings. And Germany in 8th place in the team competition. Right now, Korea the leader, Romania in 2nd, China, Russia, Spain, Japan, the United States, and Germany in 8th place. We will be back with rotation 3 from Stuttgart in a moment. Don't go away, folks. Bart Connor and Raj Babzar back live. Action from Stuttgart, Germany, the men's team final of the World Gymnastics Championships. Day 2 of 5 days of incredible live coverage here only on WCSN. Robert Juckel of Germany to the vault now. Now, Germany was in 8th place in the team competition coming into this rotation, but with vault being one of the higher scoring events, expect them to work their way back up into contention for a medal after this rotation. Nice handspring double front.
Well, that was a nice vault. Judges are looking for the pre-flight elements, which is the moment on approach to the vaulting table here when he hits the board to the horse, how clean the gymnast is. And notice his flipping position. His knees are relatively close together and only a small deduction. So
Every vault has a start value associated with it. That one is a 6.6. So as you say, theoretically, he could get as much as a 16.6 because that's added to a maximum value of 10.0 in terms of execution. So scores will be considerably higher for the vault. Huang Shu now to the rings for China.
And here's another event where the Chinese seem to set themselves apart from the rest of the field. They're just very strong. Position's a little high there. But the gymnast is given that 15-degree margin. He's still going. The strength. And those types of elements really put strain on your shoulders.
We've mentioned the injuries. Last year he did not compete at the World Championship because of a chest injury.
And that's a relatively good set, lead-off set for China on rings. China's ranked first on rings coming into this competition. And you'll see why, these next two guys.
15.975, good score for Robert Zschukl. Eugene Spiridonov. He was Evgeny Spiridonov when he was living in Russia, but changed his name when he moved to Germany. He emigrated in 2001 and became a member of their national team.
That's a Kazamatsu type vault. A round-off entry, and he does 2.5 twists in the post flight. So we actually call it a Kazamatsu full. Notice a little bit of leg separation while twisting. Oh, and his foot, he lands outside that white line, which means he'll suffer a 3/10 deduction for, I'm sorry, 5 for stepping outside that line. It's detrimental.
It's 0.8 of a point for a fall, and then there are other deductions, 1, 3, and 5/10 of a point, depending on the size of a step, the other technical errors that might be associated with it. Here's one of my favorite gymnasts. You got to love Fabian Hambuchen. We used to call him Harry Potter when he wore those little round glasses.
Yeah, I remember.
It's hard to believe at just 19 years of age. This is his 4th World Championship competition.
That's amazing. I remember him at Anaheim in 2003 back in the training gyms, and we were just like, who is this little guy? And he was working his tail off on pommel horse.
Coached by his father. Spiridonov 15.775. Pretty good score there.
He's not so little anymore, though, huh?
No.
He's Germany's go-to guy. Let's see what he's got here.
Last year's World Championships, he had a dream competition, sticking nearly every landing that he attempted. Oh, nice.
Oh, that's pretty. Compare that to the previous vaults. Definitely see the execution much cleaner, much more control for the landing. That should score well for the Germans.
Yeah, he is, as you said, the go-to guy. There's a tremendous amount of expectation from Fabian Hambuchen.
The legs are plastered together there during the twisting.
He was 3rd last year in the World Championships in the all-around and 3rd on vault. That's a tough landing, isn't it?
It is. Slightly blind. But because we do a lot of these 2.5 type elements, even on floor now, our air awareness is improved dramatically. It's easier to find yourself before the landing. 15.
16.175 for Fabian Hambuchen. Wow.
And that's great.
Actually 1/10 of a point less than what he scored in the qualifying round, but a terrific effort on vault. Huang Shu's 15.225, about 1/10 of a point less than his qualifying round. So the theme today, the scores are a little bit tighter, which I think is appropriate. The most important thing is not the number of the score, but ranking the gymnast. The best gymnast needs to get the best score, whatever value that is.
That's right. And let's see what Yang Wei does here. I know he trains one of the highest starts in the world on this event, even higher than his teammate Chen Yibing. The set could potentially start from 7.5.
Yes. Even the great Jordan Jovchev of Bulgaria, I think, does a 7.4 routine. And he is essentially a specialist. Yang Wei is a balanced all-arounder.
In order to get that high of a start value, you have to do combinations of swings and strength, which he's doing here. And oh, that's a dismount I'm familiar with. Huh?
I know you popped that double layout, double twist. That is just, I don't know how you have the gas at the end of the routine to do one of those.
Well, you know, a lot's riding on technique for sure. And one thing you have to do, especially on these leather straps, really have to drag long through bottom. Something that he does really well.
It's a good point. There is a difference in the equipment. The Spieth equipment, which is based here in Germany, they use leather straps, which means it's a slower, longer swing through the bottom. In the United States, we use primarily
polyester.
Right, kind of a combination, a weave combination of nylon, and it's a little quicker through the bottom. So a little bit different technique when you're competing in Europe than in the United States. Nikolai Krukov is the warrior of this Russian team.
That's right. He's phenomenal on this event, as you can see with those beginning peach elements.
It's just phenomenal that he's here. He's 28 years of age and suffered a damaging knee injury on the vault here in the qualifying rounds, was hobbled off the podium, and I don't know how he got through the competition. And oh my goodness, what a tough gentleman, because you can see he can barely walk.
That's incredible. He's putting it together.
Now here's a guy who was a world champion in 1959.
That's a
99. The championships in Tianjin, China. 10 years ago, he was a silver medalist in the vault at the World Championships. To be at that high level for that long,
10 years,
come back from a torn Achilles, he is just a warrior. There's no question about it. And a lot of people were impressed with his toughness the other day when he jammed his knee on a vault and could barely get through the rest of the competition. But to help Russia qualify for the Olympic Games, which was one of the key goals at these World Championships, the top 12 teams in the world qualified to.
True team player there.
Yes, he did. On that note, while we have a second, the top 12 teams in the world who will go as complete teams to the Olympics: China, Japan, Germany, United States, Russia, Romania, Spain, Korea, France, Italy, Canada, Belarus. It was devastating for the Ukraine to finish 13th.
Huge surprise. Usually the Ukrainians are a lock-in for every Olympics.
Exactly, and a medal contender most often. Switzerland, Great Britain, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Greece, Australia, and the Netherlands, the top 20. But just the top 12 will be able to go as complete teams to the Olympics. And then there are permutations. The next group of teams get to send a couple of athletes, and then other athletes are waived into the Olympics if they're reigning world champions. And they also consider regional considerations based on where athletes are from, so that they get a complete diverse representation at the Olympics in addition to the best 12 teams in the world. Boy, this is taking a long time for these scores. Boy, last year at the World Championships in Aarhus, that was one of the running themes, was the amount of time it took to get the scores out. Rafael Martinez from Spain now on high bar. This is the first high bar we've seen at these World Championships.
It's a Tkachev element there.
Whoa.
Some new rules on high bar. The judges are really looking for skills to finish in a handstand or close to a handstand. If the skills don't, they're going to incur a level of deduction based on how far off from the handstand they are. So scores are actually running a little bit lower on high bar these days, and this could also be a make or break event for any team able to score well on high bar. Might be in pretty good shape. Tkachev element there. He caught with a little bit of bent arms. Judges are also looking for rhythm of the routine. Those Rabalco elements especially is where they're targeting these deductions.
Und jetzt ist die Leitung da. Yang Wei aus China bekommt 15,850.
The score rings for Yang Wei, 15.85.
Letzter Turner an diesem Gerät, Chen.
Yang Wei's score on rings is 15.85.
Had a 16.35
in the prelims
qualifying round, but
this next guy on
this is insane.
I don't know what I need to say here. Just watch this.
He's the reigning world champion on this event, and you're going to see why.
Notice the positions and where they are in relation to the rings. It's a Hazarian to L cross, and wish we had a better angle, but look at that there, the invert, how low that is. His head is actually below the rings. Just looks like a rock when he hits these positions.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, the judges want you to go directly to the position. They don't want you to catch it in some sort of nominal position and then lower into the L cross to get full credit on one of those swinging to strength moves. Oh, this just is incredible.
And again, that lower down, not even necessary. Doesn't count towards the routine, but just there for flair. He's just showing off how strong he is.
In case you wondered. Oh,
look at that. Kicks out of that dismount.
Look at those biceps. They're as big as his head.
I think he's going to soak that in for a moment. That was a nice set.
Yeah, you're not kidding. We'll see him in the ring final, which will be the battle of the strongmen for sure. China's starting to feel comfortable. They've off to an incredible start on floor, horse, and rings. They'll go to the vault where they excel, and parallel bars where they're the best in the world, and they'll have to wrap it up on high bar where if they have one vulnerability, it's certainly on high bar.
High bar, that's right. But what the Chinese are known for doing is exploiting their strengths, just like this routine here. It's routines like this that really set the Chinese apart and give them that margin, that cushion above.
That's just
the
ideal.
rest of
Look
the
at that position. We talk about being more than 15 degrees above the vertical, but look at the positions as he goes straight to a perfect Maltese, level with the rings.
Inside the rings, I mean, it's very hard to do.
He says, folks, we are on our way.
Sense of relief
to locking up.
That's right.
At the halfway point, they are looking very, very strong. And as I said, they're coming into two events where they are among the best in the world, vault and parallel bars.
That's right.
16.45 for Chen Yibing.
And well deserved. That was a very, very nice set.
And in line with the other scores today, just slightly less than his score in the qualifying round, which is a 16.6. We saw Rafael Martinez, a 14.625. is a perfect example of the difference in scoring on a ring routine versus a high bar routine.
Exactly.
Rafael Martinez hit his routine, and it's almost 2 points less than Chen Yibing's ring routine.
So it actually changes the strategy of what you want to do during these team competitions, and China's got the right idea. Exploit those events that score higher.
Safoshkin, we saw him on the rings for Russia. This is an event where he doesn't necessarily have the smooth style and execution, but the Russian team is rather decimated with injuries. And oh, that was strange.
See, that happens on P-bars. His finger got caught underneath. He's actually swinging on top of his index finger, probably, but kept going with it.
Kind of muscling his way through this routine. It's not pretty.
That's right.
But it's
a routine.
It'll work, and it was a hit.
That's right.
Safoshkin had a 15.45 in the qualifying round. What do you think about those moves?
You know, I'm glad they brought him back into the sport, because they definitely add a little bit of flair, almost a release type element on P-bars. It's a crowd pleaser. You can see he has to wear those pads for elements like those and the other upper arm skills.
Is 14.6 for Safoshkin. We'll be back with more of the Artistic World Gymnastics Championships live from Stuttgart. Let's take a look at the standings at the halfway point in rotation 3. China now starting to stretch out their lead over Russia, Germany, and Spain. And you see Korea, Romania, Japan, and the United States have yet to compete in this half of the rotation.
And we're back at the World Championships live from Stuttgart. Koreans on high bar. A release element coming up that's called a Kovacs. Done well. That Rabalko element, judges are really looking for how close to a handstand the element finishes. You see some leg separations there at the top. The judges definitely take notice of that. Dismount, double twisting, double layout. Or we call it a double-double. It's a good set for the Koreans.
Yang Tae-young. Salariu now from Romania.
And the Romanians, parallel bars definitely are not one of their most well-known events, but they have the ability to grind it out and stay.
Boy, and they have grinded it out in the past, haven't they?
And when the dust settles, they're usually a player in the end.
High bar is the same. Romanians very, very good on floor, pommel horse, vault.
Right.
But for some reason, have not excelled in parallel bars.
And that's a decent set there. Not too much difficulty, but executed well.
They did muscle their way through parallel bars enough to earn the bronze medal in the team competition in the Olympics in Athens in 2004. Salariu, a very balanced gymnast, 6th in the all-around at the World Championships in 2005 in Australia. Yang Tae-young's score of a 14.3 on high bar. Yang Tae-seok up now.
That's a Jaeger release element.
Invented by a German gymnast. Nice tribute to...
Oh,
no! And that full twisting front somersault called a Winkler, invented by Danielle Winkler, also a German gymnast. Now, explain what happens when there's a fall like that. The deductions and the compounding complications.
That's right. It's, you know, these days a fall is not 5/10 anymore like it used to be. It's 8/10, so it's very detrimental. And then on top of that, you lose the value of the skill. So a fall can actually mean suffer a 1.5 or a 1.4 in deductions.
Plus, if you don't have any other release move in the routine, then you won't necessarily fulfill an element group requirement. So
that's right. But he had that Jaeger in the beginning, so he got it. And when you fall, you have 30 seconds to remount.
Young Tae-suk, the 25-year-old, this is his best event. So
it's important to note, too, that because these routines are so long, it's actually easier. And ideally, what you want is to hit the routine. It's actually more tiring to fall and go through the emotional roller coaster of psyching yourself back up and finishing the routine.
Flavius Koshi now of Romania for parallel bars.
It's called a peach. Want to do that with locked arms. He had a slight arm bend there into a tapelt. Stutz.
Never figured out why they call that move a peach. Peach basket.
Never did either. Maybe because it.
Oh no.
Was a little off on that Healy element. Decided to straddle and catch himself. Gymnasts do that a lot in training if they're a little bit off.
20-year-old from Rešica in Romania. The European Championships this year. He was 5th in the all-around and 3rd on the pommel horse. That unfortunate because Romania, as we discussed, not exceptional on parallel bars, so they can't really afford a mistake like that.
And that's right. Means they'll have to work that much harder on the other events. Here's that Winkler.
Young Tae-suk, 13.55.
It looked like he had it, but he just didn't get his dowels around the bar enough. Gravity pulled him off.
Kim Ji-hoon. He's 23 years of age. This is his 3rd World Championships. Comes from Seoul. Last year, the Koreans were 11th place as a team. Not what they normally expect. You know, it's amazing. Whenever you get to the workout gym at the World Championships, everybody's looking at the Koreans because they do such hard gymnastics. But for some reason, they rarely finish in the medals. How do you explain that?
And that's a good point. Well, especially in this code.
Oh my.
That's 2 release elements. Doing well so far, especially in this code. Oh.
Double twister. I think he did that on purpose. I guess.
It's a different element there. I had a teammate back at Ohio State that played around with those Ribalco type skills and skill just like that. As I was saying about the Koreans, you know, 2 different strategies. You can throw the harder tricks. Obviously, the more harder tricks you throw, the less consistent you become. lost.
That's another thing that is quite different from my era of competition, is that you could get a good score with a routine that had adequate difficulty and clean execution.
Right.
Now you can come in with a very clean routine, but unless you have the skills, there's just no score there for you, is there?
There isn't, and vice versa. Come in with a difficulty, jam-packed routine, and if it's not executed well, you may not get the score.
We saw after that mistake for Flavius Koshy, only a 14.1 for Romania on the parallel bars.
Still not too bad of a score.
Popescu, their final performer. Popescu is 24 years of age, Romanian national champion. He was on the Olympic team in 2004 that earned that bronze medal.
That element there is called a depelt.
Another move invented by a German gymnast. Much of the origin of the sport of gymnastics can be traced back to the Turner organizations in Germany. Oh, no.
And you hate to see that, because that was a pretty good routine, and that error is just going to be detrimental, because not only is it a fall, but you saw all those large steps before the fall here, about 3 steps, so each one of those steps are going to incur the deduction. There's no mercy points here in gymnastics.
And then he really doesn't get the value of doing a D-dismount.
D-dismount, that's correct.
So it is
Suffer
a whack.
Yeah.
That is unfortunate for the Romanians. Kim Ji-hun, 14.75.
That element there was called a Coleman, full twisting Kovacs.
Ice on the elbows. You're familiar with that scene, aren't you?
Exactly what that's about. Sport is taking victims.
It has been sort of an overarching theme at these World Championships, is the amount of injuries to some of the best gymnasts in the world. They're being forced to do such high level of difficulty, such long routines.
That's right.
And such variety of skills. It really is a bigger test on the gymnast body than ever in the history of the sport, in my impression.
It is, absolutely. And you have to train these skills day in, day out. The moment you least want it to, your body says, I can't take it anymore. That's what's happened to a few gymnasts here.
That's why it's even more remarkable when you see a gymnast like Tomita.
And he's great on this event.
He turned 27 in November, to be at the top of the gymnastics world for so long.
Also a ring finalist on this event. See here because of his positions. It's a shoot to invert position. Just very clean gymnast. Like you were saying, Bart, he looks so calm and relaxed and makes everything look easy. Oh, wow. Really mastered that dismount. Pike double front half out.
When you see a balanced gymnast like Tomita or Yang Wei, it seems to me like they're almost a freak of nature in some way, because they are good on 6 apparatus, which are completely different. The rings, which is about swing technique, but mostly brute strength.
That's right.
And then the pommel horse, which is all about swing technique. And the vault and floor, which is about legs and power in the lower body.
Right.
So in order to be a balanced all-around gymnast, I mean, there really are only maybe a dozen guys in the world who can. Paul Hamm is among them, the Olympic champion from the United States. But really, there are several guys who are good on 3-4 events.
Right.
But to find a 6-event gymnast these days is quite rare.
It's quite rare. And Tomita carries that role quite well.
Sean Golden for the United States. During that rotation, we did not get to see live coverage of the vault. So here is a look back at Sean Golden.
this vault should be good for the U.S. Oh, wow.
And that has a 6.6 start value.
That's going to score well. I
Very clean.
train with him day in, day out in the gym, and he's doing exactly in competition what he does in practice. It's great to see.
16.1, a very good score. The U.S. will certainly climb back up into the contention for medals after the performance on the higher scoring vault. Tomita finished cleanly on the rings. We'll be back with more gymnastics coverage right away. We are back in Stuttgart, Germany, at the halfway point in the men's team final competition, the second of 5 exciting days of live coverage only on WCSN. Quick recap on some of the scores from that rotation. Tomita had a 15.675 on the rings. And the German crowd anticipating that the German team will continue to be solid as they move to the 4th of 6 events. A very knowledgeable and excited crowd here in Germany. Of course, very loud to support their home team as we take a look at the standing. China starting to stretch out their lead, and yet they're coming up on the big scoring event, the vault. Russia, Korea, Romania, the United States, and Germany 5th and 6th, Japan in 7th, and Spain in 8th. Don't go away. Welcome back to Stuttgart. Bart Connor along with Raj Bhavsar calling this live action for the World Team Championships. Japan now set to vault. Japan 7th of the 8 teams in terms of their team score at this point, but they are headed to the highest scoring event, the vault, and interestingly enough, China will be next, and they have a lead of a little about 2.3 points over Russia, and yet they will extend their lead likely in this rotation. Nice looking vault for Yosuke Hoshi. Yurchenko double twist.
Generally, the guys that are up first for these teams on vault may be doing some of the more conservative vaults, like you see here. So Yurchenko, double full, very clean.
Nice form, huh?
Yeah.
Kevin Tan from the United States. Kai Wen Tan is his official name. U.S. goes to the parallel bars now. This could be a very important event for the United States team because
that's right.
It's tough to get a good score on parallel bars, so hit routines are a must here.
And for a ring guy, this Kevin can really swing some P-bars. See here, nice peach element into the skill there is called a pike bell.
Invented again by Mike Bell, who was a former German gymnast. Boy, they made a lot of contributions to this sport.
Giant into a tuck bell. The team is going great so far.
He had a 15.3 in the qualifying round.
Outside of that large step on the routine, it's pretty clean.
Recap on the score for Hoshi, 15.7. Very clean execution.
And that's a good score. This vault only starts at a 16.2, so to get a 15.7 out of a 6.2 vault, it just goes to show how clean he was.
That seems to be a typical quality of the Japanese program. Very clean execution. They do not give away obvious errors. Mizutori now. Oh! What a save!
Save that.
Oh, that could have been a disastrous deduction if he sat down. 0.8 of a point.
It's going to be a deduction nonetheless because he landed so deep, and Took a large hop back. And you'll notice
What do you think happened here?
You'll notice here that he was a little, he didn't come over the top, and that skewed his axis of twist. When you're off axis like that, landing in kind of a diagonal position and tend to drift off to one side. He had to take a large step back in order to save that. But right there you see he doesn't come over the top of the horse in a perpendicular axis to the table.
15.525 for Mizutori.
And that vault starts from a 16.6, and that shows that the judges noticed those deductions. Almost a point off, more than a point off.
Okiguchi now. 16.2 was his score in the qualifying round. But as we have mentioned, scores a little bit tighter today, which is good.
The Japanese were ranked 6th as a team coming into this team finals on this event.
We saw his exciting floor routine in the first rotation for Japan. We'll see if he can follow up with a big vault here. Oh, sweet.
Wow.
How nice was that?
That was, barely saw how many twists that was, but that was a soup triple full. A higher end vault. Looks like he's almost, wow, I did it. This is the same vault that U.S. candidate Justin Spring tore his ACL on at the U.S. Championships. I mean, that is so many twists. Almost lands outside the line. But that's a great vault. This vault starts from a 7.0, just one of the highest starts a gymnast can get on this event.
That is the hardest vault and the highest start value vault we've seen today.
And to do that in a 3-up, 3-count format, you're really throwing everything out there. You're not holding anything back. Hats off to this Japanese team. Some teams would choose to put up a guy that does a 16.6 vault, go the more conservative route, but
16.25 was his score. One of the few scores that was higher today than in his qualifying round. Very, very impressive for Okiguchi, who is coached by the 1984 Olympic champion Koji Gushiken. Jonathan Horton getting set, put a little honey on his hands to get the
many people
stickiness.
People may not know. It's a wide variety of grocery store products that gymnasts use on their hands.
What's your special formula for parallel bars?
Mine's honey. I've stuck with honey for a long time, but I've gone everything from, I used to boil Coca-Cola and put extra sugar in it, and tried molasses and salt water.
You can see why he needs to get a good grip when they swing through the bottom on these peaches and giant swings. You really need to have a good grip. So it's a combination of water, chalk, honey, some kind of sticky substance, and it's all legal. Nice job for Jonathan Horton so far.
It's going well. The beginning of this routine, he did a peach half element that was slightly off.
For some reason, he tends to rush parallel bars a little bit.
And
he's had some problems on this event in major competitions. Nice job, though, there.
Overall, very good. Probably happy with that routine. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do with that first element, which was a peach half. Generally supposed to finish a bit more towards a handstand. It looked like he was off, and his hands were off axis, but he kept his execution deductions to a minimum. So,
pound for pound, one of the strongest guys in this competition, no question about it. He's known as X Games on the team because the guy basically just goes nuts, especially on the high bar. We'll see that hopefully later today. Recap on the score for Kevin Tan, 15.2. He had a 15.3 in the qualifying session, but he definitely did his part for the U.S. team there. They needed a hit routine.
So the U.S., they are 2 for 2 on parallel bars.
Silariu now for Romania, getting set for the high bar.
And he is one of Romania's key guys.
Nice.
Oh, wow. And that there, he did a in-bar element to a Rebalco type skill and then directly into a release move, which will earn him some bonus connection points.
And a big release at that, a 1.5 twister called a Def, invented by Jacques Def, a French gymnast 20 years ago. Well, he's really not hitting the handstands very cleanly, is he?
No, he's kind of blazing right through them. We'll see what the judges do with that.
Do you think they're being stricter on those type of deductions?
They absolutely are. As I was mentioning, they're really looking for all these skills, all these pirouetting type skills and in-bar skills. They really want to see if the gymnast can finish them in a handstand while keeping the flow of the rhythm going. Here is that Def. Notice that leg separation. It's kind of a toss-up sometimes, Bart. You throw a difficult skill, but you incur a deduction. If it's 3 to 5/10, you almost lost the point of doing that skill altogether. Kind of cancels each other out.
I think that was part of the logic on this new scoring system, was to make the execution deductions severe enough that gymnasts do skills that they're only capable of doing. 15.4 for Jonathan Horton.
And that's a pretty good score.
1/10 of a point lower than his qualifying score, so he wasn't hit too severely for the
No, he wasn't.
bobble in that peach half.
This is a giant double back, also called a bell. And training these elements day in, day out, like I was saying, Bart, your arms really take a beating. Notice there that in that jam position, he did hit a handstand. Whoa. It's like we're going in the warm-up for high bar.
This is Nikolai Kryukov, who we mentioned limped off the podium, and you can see he's severely limping even today. I don't know what he plans to do for a high bar dismount.
I don't know. What a warrior, though, huh?
Unbelievable soldier for that Russian team, but it's also very disappointing that they actually don't have another guy to put in place of him. This is the state of the Russian program is
rebuilding.
shambles. Yeah, but they're in a rebuilding phase. There's no question about it. But you know, in the 15, 20 years ago, they would have another guy to slot in like the Chinese do now and just say, thank you for your help, Mr. Kryukov, but we don't need you anymore.
Exactly.
So instead, they're bringing these guys who've been 10 years at the world level back to these competitions because they just don't have the feeder system anymore that they used to have under the old Soviet system.
That's right.
When it was a big state-supported program, a lot of money, a lot of coaches, a lot of the top coaches from places like Russia, Romania, China have left their home countries to take higher paying jobs in other places around the world. So anytime you see a program, for example, in women's gymnastics like Brazil, all of a sudden they're great. Look and see who recently moved there, and it's the Ukrainian coaches. The same is the case with Russians. Their coaches have been have emigrated all over the world and made great contributions to other programs.
Like the U.S.?
Like the U.S. Remember a few years back, the team from Israel, the women's team, got really good all of a sudden, and they were like, what happened there? And then you look, and Mihai Brestian, the Romanian coach, who now coaches in the United States, he had lived in Israel for about 5 or 6 years and applied the Romanian system there, and it works. So 14-1-5 for Solariu. Not a great score.
Not a huge score, and I definitely think is a combination of the amount of difficulty he had in the routine, plus, like we spoke about, hitting those handstands.
Oh, wow. Isn't that sweet? Liang Fu Liang, first vaulter for China, 2.5 twister. Nice. He just launches it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I mean, they really have exceptional vaulting technique. Even something, I've studied videotapes on their vaults. They really have mastered this event.
What do you think it is? It's a technical thing, but there's speed and power, but he doesn't look like your typical vaulting body style. He's kind of long and lean.
Not at all, which tells me, and after studying their tapes endlessly, that they are very technically finite about everything they do on that event. All the way down to their run, their approach.
I remember years ago they used to train with 20-pound lead weight vests and do vaults into a pit, so the fitness level is also impressive. As we look at Yuri Ryazanov from Vladimir, Russia.
Oh, layout to Tkachev.
Last year, the Russian team was second in the World Championships. Had a very good.
Those are called German Giants.
Russians were very good in the team competition last year. His best event is pommel horse, so he's typically one of those long, lean guys who can really swing it out there on events like horse and high bar.
Comes a dismount. Double stick.
Well, he slung it out there a little bit, but managed to find the floor, didn't he?
Yes, he did. That'll be a nice stock routine.
Third in the all-around at the European Championships this year. Liang Fu Liang, 16.025.
Wow.
He had a 16.075 in the qualifying round, so China looking confident.
Very confident.
Expect them to extend their lead substantially after vault.
Especially here. Oh, wow. He has done that vault much better at times, and that's why they put him in this competition. But up until that landing deduction, watch how clean this is.
Yeah, and effortless in the air.
Pre-flight. Toes are even pointed, Bart.
Yeah, that's just so
That
hard.
right there looked like he had the landing, just too much rotation.
Vault is one of those events where you don't really, in fast motion, you don't really see the form breaks. When you see the Chinese in slow motion, you get a sense of really the quality of their vaulting, because there's leg straight and pointed toes throughout.
That's right. That's right. And that consciously takes an effort to do that in these skills.
Yeah, because mostly you're trying to just survive,
Exactly.
aren't you? Make the skill around and land it.
A lot of gymnasts are happy with just putting it on their feet. These athletes, they're not happy unless pointed toes, perfect lines.
Gymnastics competition continues here. 14.7 for Russia's Ryazanova. And we are back at the World Gymnastics Championships. There is a look back at Yang Hui. Zouk triple full. A 7.0 start value. So from a maximum of a 17 possible on the vault, expect a big score. And China's lead is now getting to be
substantial,
obscene.
Yeah.
16-5-2-5 on a 17 point perfect vault.
And it's those types of vaults that really separate the Chinese routines like that they have on rings, vault, parallel bars, a culmination of all those things.
14-8-7-5, the score for Horohodin from Russia. This, folks, will be dramatic. Nikolai Kryukov, who was hobbled by a severe knee injury in the vault in the qualifying rounds, now on the high bar. You cannot imagine.
And it's good to see him out here fighting.
Oh, incredible toughness for a guy who's had torn Achilles, and he's been 10 years at the top of the world scene. I'll be curious to see whether he even attempts a dismount on this damaged knee.
I think it goes to show a lot about his character and how much he wants this Russian program back.
Oh,
where it
wow.
was. Wow, that was nice.
That's the tucked Gaylord, and move invented by Mitch Gaylord, Olympic gold medalist in 1984 for the United States. This is courageous. Let's see. Oh, my goodness. He's going to do a dismount. Oh, my goodness. Oh. A double-double laid out.
You can see it in his face. He is fighting.
That is amazing.
That's courageous.
Many gymnastics fans might remember the most dramatic landing of the men's side of the sport was Shun Fujimoto from Japan, who landed on a broken knee in the 1976 Olympics to help Japan win over the former Soviet Union. And this brings back those type of memories. When you have a damaged knee, you go through a routine like this fully aware that you're going to have to do a dismount.
That's right.
And wondering what it's going to feel like when you land from about 12 feet in the air.
I've been in that situation before, even quite recently. I can attest to that. It's going through his mind as almost like a question mark. Will I be okay on this? Just
how much is it going to hurt? I'm going to do it, but I just don't know.
Exactly. Germany's go-to man, Hambuchen.
There's nice looking combinations here.
And that's improved from last time I saw it. More Sue element there. Some gymnasts opt to wear the arm pads. It's because of the abrasions and beatings that our arms take doing these skills.
He was second in the all-around at the European Championships this year, won the high bar.
And this is a good routine so far for him.
He had a good score in the qualifying round, 15-6-2-5.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Very nice.
He's enormously popular in Germany, not only because of his successes, but he has a very delightful, outgoing personality, and much of the popularity of men's gymnastics, which is substantially more than women's gymnastics in Germany, is riding on the shoulders of this 19-year-old. He'll turn 20 in October. The score for Hambuchen, 15-5-7-5.
That's a very good score for him.
Just a tenth lower than his qualifying score, so good job for Germany on the parallel bars. Nikolai Kryukov gutted through that routine, 14-6-5.
And Bart, that's a very good score for a wounded soldier like that, especially on high bar where scores anything in the 15 range is good. 14.6, close enough. That's great.
All right, here are the team standings after 4 of 6 events. China's lead now, almost 6 points over second place Japan, Korea, and the United States, rounding out the top 4. Don't go away, folks. Ready now for the 5th of 6 rotations here at the World Gymnastics Championships in Stuttgart. I'm Bart Connor, along with Raj Bhavsar, two-time world silver medalist for the United States. Germany to the high bar now, Philippe Boy. This is one of his best events. Oh.
Really missed that handstand on that half talk there. You can see how there, again, judges really want to see those elements come close to a handstand when finishing.
The half talk is a Takemoto. This is a famous Japanese gymnast, Olympic champion back in the 60s, and that was a variation of the move, so it's called a half talk in the gymnastics parlance.
Oh, no.
Oh, they couldn't afford that at all.
Not at all.
Because it was not a great routine.
No.
And you need to stick those landings, especially when there's, you know, marginal difficulty.
That's right. And to be honest with you, it looked like he was going to nail the dismount. Just kind of thought, if I was in his mind, I believe he thought that he had it made and kicked out a little bit too early, Bart. Should have just stuck it around to his feet. And again, now we get to watch a clinic on P-bars. These Chinese gymnasts.
Firmly in control of the team championship here now. China going to an event, as you say, that they master.
Watch these
They'll
lines.
have to finish on the high bar, but their lead should be so substantial. Anything barring a complete meltdown, China looks in charge and in gold medal form. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
We saw Xiaoqin on the pommel horse, one of the highlights of the day.
They have a nice swing, very fluid look to them, all their gymnasts.
And that's when you know it's good coaching, because the fact that they all have good technique is not an accident.
Right, exactly.
You know, when you have a program, a different program in the United States, you might have some guys that are swingers, some guys that are muscle guys, some that are,
exactly,
you know, technical specialists, but to a man, the Chinese gymnasts are technically sound, and that just points to quality coaching.
That's right.
We see the same case for the Chinese women. But they have had some inconsistencies in the past, but that seems to have been erased. Philippe Boy, 14.125, a big deduction for falling on that dismount. The score was higher than I thought it was going to be.
That's actually, I was going to say that. It's not too detrimental.
Well, we are in Germany.
That's true.
I'm not suggesting anything.
No, but there's always that little bit of home court advantage.
Jukel now on the high bar. Ooh, nice.
That finished right to a handstand.
That is what we're looking
that.
for, right? Along with the pommel horse, this is his other best event.
These two gymnasts, Jukel here and Hambuchen, should be able to recuperate the fall that just occurred. So far, so good. Clean routine. Oh.
And Germany currently in 6th place in the team competition, but that is deceiving because they are on high bar and then the floor, a reasonably high-scoring event. They can work their way back up in there. China has the lead, Japan in 2nd, Korea 3rd, USA in 4th. USA will be on the high bar after Germany finishes. 15.75. Xiaoqin
Just a shade lower than his prelim score. Oh, nice. Front uprise, double tuck.
That's so hard.
That is hard. Flipping fast and not much time to do it in. Oh, and a pike Morrisue. Don't see that from many gymnasts in this competition. Both a pike and a tuck Morrisue. These Chinese gymnasts, they pack everything into these P-bar routines.
Oh. He missed the Worlds last year because of a chest injury. I got to believe that those moves where he lands on his upper arms don't help that, but my goodness. The 28-year-old from Jiangsu, veteran of 2 Olympic teams, delivers.
I think it's safe to say, Bart, that the Chinese have checked into the office.
The score for Zhukel, 14.775. Their final performer will be their star, Fabian Hambuchen. He was a finalist in the Olympics on the high bar.
And a finalist in this competition as well, ranked first.
The reigning European champion on this event, second in the all-around.
And this is a dynamic routine.
Here we go.
And let's go to Coleman.
Nice.
That's a popular sequence. It's called a full Takamoto.
Very aggressive.
Packed with releases.
He's always been good on the high bar. Always. He seems very confident there. Oh, yeah. All he has left is his dismount. Nice.
Oh, wow.
Look for Germany to move up.
It'll be interesting to see what that first routine does to their overall score. But
you're right.
Those 2 routines performed by the Germans.
They're only about a point out of 3rd place right now. Hambuchen can be always expected to deliver in the clutch. He did there. Huang Shu, 16-2.
16-2, and that's mainly because of the amount of difficulty in that routine, probably starting in the high 6s to 7.0 range.
And they're not done. Yang Wei coming up.
Their best guy. Currently leading the competition on this event. His first qualifying into the finals competition.
Superman. Oh, a little shaky start.
Peach hat. There's that front uprise double. Giant pike bell towards the end of the bars. The thing you notice about these routines, Bart, is the rhythm and the flow. Judges really want to see from start to finish an even-paced routine. It's not too choppy and pleasing to the eye like Yang Wei is doing here. Very good routine. Small hop on the dismount that should score well. Increase the Chinese lead. For those that don't know, those are wooden parallel bars as compared to some of the other types of parallel bars in the world. So these wooden bars can really scrape up your arms pretty good on those skills.
Most of the other bars are a combination of some kind of fiberglass with a wood laminate. But in Germany, they're old school. They use wooden bars. Okay, so Germany looking pretty good after those high bar performances. Only one shaky landing. Germany will wrap up the competition on the floor exercise as we look at Russia. Maxim Deviatovsky, who is there now.
And this is Russia's main player in the all-around competition. He's a very balanced gymnast everywhere. One of the key guys for the Russian team.
Placed 5th in the preliminaries, European all-around champion, so a balanced gymnast at that.
From Russia, 15.125.
Und nun für die zweite Gruppe dieser Regel 90 Sekunden Einzelzeit.
90 seconds of warming up now.
That was a handspring double full punch Branny. Going for those combination passes. One thing you see more of in these floor routines is rather than 3-skill tumbling passes, you see a lot of 2-skill tumbling passes, and gymnasts are just doing more of them. Rather than a 4-pass routine, you'll see a 5 to 6-pass routine.
Is that just to eliminate the risk of trying to do consecutive bounding skills?
The third one, yeah, a little bit. In this code of points, doing that third skill isn't as highly rewarded.
Right.
So you might as well eliminate that risk and just go for some 2-skill tumbling passes.
15.125, the score as we look on videotape of Maxim Deviatovsky. Russia strong on the floor. Yahweh, 16.1. Talk about a clinic.
Yeah.
We're seeing it now.
And these are just amazing scores. Anything above a 16 on these events outside of vault is
and on parallel bars it's next to impossible because that's one of the events like Pommel Horse where there is not the possibility of getting connection bonus.
That's
so
right.
You just have to do a lot of hard individual skills and do them cleanly.
That's right. It's almost humorous that these Chinese gymnasts are scoring what some of the other gymnasts start at.
The Japanese team prepping the bars. They will be next to go on parallel bars after watching China put on a masterful display. Quick recap in the team scores coming into this 5th of 6 rotations. China in the lead by more than 5 points, 5.3. Korea behind Japan by 0.3 of a point. Then the United States looking very strong. 0.275 behind Korea in 4th. It drops back 0.6 of a point to Russia. And then 0.1 of a point back to Germany in 6th place. Spain in 7th and Romania in 8th. So China out to a comfortable, enormous lead. But the medals are certainly still up for grabs as the United States, currently in 4th place, takes to the high bar. David Durrani, the U.S. national champion, will be set to go.
And he has a few tricky release elements coming up in the beginning of his routine.
High bar, one of the riskiest routines, no question about it, because you do have to let go of the bar.
Absolutely.
And you do have to catch it.
Absolutely.
So enormous pressure here on the Americans, who are sitting in 4th place in the team competition.
Here you see some of the teams, they prep the bars before they compete according to whatever standards they like.
I'm glad to see that the gymnasts get this one-touch warm-up. In other World Championship format competitions, the gymnasts warm up in a training hall in the background, and it's nowhere near as good, and I believe it's dangerous.
And this is much better.
This is the best system for the best quality and the safest quality of gymnastics that we can see. Okay, we're coming back with more of Rotation 5. We're back live from Stuttgart, Germany. The second half of the 5th rotation here. The United States men head to the high bar. Mark Williams, the coach of the team there, getting ready. He and Kevin Majika are the leaders of this program, getting ready to put up David Durrani, the Stanford graduate and the reigning U.S. national champion. Durrani in the qualifying round scored a 14.625 on high bar.
And he's generally very solid here. And once he gets past these tricky release elements, should be smooth sailing. Nice layout Kovacs.
Very nice form and execution.
Just a tuck Kovacs. Notice his toe point. He does have good execution. Layout to Kovacs.
Oh! Oh my goodness.
That was unexpected.
And his routine was so aggressive.
Exactly. You do all these hard elements, and then that's considered one of the easier elements. The layout to Tkachev. See the bar relatively the whole time. Just set it a little too far. Couldn't get his dowels around the bar.
0.8 of a point deduction.
Plus
do not get credit for the skill. That will not be what the U.S. needed at this point. Currently in 4th place in the team competition here in the 5th of 6 rotations.
Nice double-double finish. Unfortunately, falls in this new set of rules really can make or break you as a team or an individual.
Yosuke Hoshi for Japan. See what they can come up with after China wrote the book on how to do parallel bars. The Chinese guys probably sitting back having a cup of coffee knowing they have this one in the bag. But the silver and bronze medals are very much up for grabs. Oh, nice looking underbar
these
work.
Japanese, their technique on peach elements are just in a class by themselves. We had a training camp in Japan, and I remember vividly getting instructed on how to do these peach elements perfectly. There's just no one in the world that does it like them.
What do they do differently than the rest of the world?
You know, it has a lot to do with how they fall back from the handstand and reach that deep pike, and the opening position coming out. It's all one fluid motion. Some guys you might see bend their arms or muscle it. It's Japanese gymnasts, all the peaches, they look like swing elements. The Japanese were actually only a 10th behind the Chinese, roughly a 10th behind the Chinese coming into this competition on this event, ranked 2nd. So they're a very good team on P-bars.
He scored a 16.0. Big score on parallel bars these days in the qualifying round. The score for Durrani, a disappointing 13.575.
Yeah, that will definitely hurt, especially as we're rounding out the last 2 rotations.
Plus, it puts extra pressure on the other 2 performers.
That's right.
Sasha Artemev and Jonathan Horton, the other 2 Americans to go on the high bar. To the pommel horse now. Korean team currently in 3rd place. Just a little less than 0.3 of a point ahead of the United States going into this rotation.
It's that flop sequence. Oh. And those leg separations are really going to cost. That was large enough to a point where the judges may not even give recognition to the skill. Grinding it out.
He did grind it out. In some cases, that's what you have to do, right?
Especially in, 3 up, 3 count, a pommel horse. Talked to several gymnasts. There's so many nerves you're dealing with. Pommel horse is one of those. Got to be on events
But if you're not, you just hack through it and avoid any major error, right?
Exactly.
15.875 for Hoshi.
Some of the other events, you can fight your way back to good execution and good routine. On pommel horse, sometimes the more you fight, the more off you are. A little mistake can multiply.
First look at Shun Kuwahara, Japan. He did 4 events in the qualifying round. He was the alternate to last year's world team. This is his favorite event. Interesting, he began at gymnastics at age 10. A lot of the Japanese gymnasts start considerably older than the rest of the gymnasts. So it's not uncommon that their team is 4 to 6 years older than the rest of the world.
Right.
It's just the way the system works in Japan. Many of them don't even start till 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. Where in the United States and many other countries, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old is more common.
That's right.
How old were you when you started?
I was 4.
Yeah. And a 15.825 in the qualifying round. Ouch.
Outside of the color of the uniform, you would think this is a Chinese gymnast.
Nice.
It's just packed with difficulty and has a very nice look to it.
A lot of endurance to get through that many skills. Oh!
And that's a mistake.
I mentioned endurance right as he just about ran out of gas. That's a tough move at the end of the routine.
At the end. You know, you would think because there's no connection, you could construct that routine in a different manner. Doing a skill of that magnitude right before your dismount after so many hard skills is maybe want to rethink that routine a little bit. Nonetheless, he gets props for going for it.
Kim Ji-hung will be the final performer on horse for Korea. They have looked less than spectacular here.
It's nice to see, though, that these Asian countries, their swings are very similar in style. Ooh. Little fight there on that Shavato.
This is an event where the body type really plays a factor in how well you can do. You just have to be fortunate to have a little bit longer arms, perhaps a little shorter torso, very lean.
That's right.
Jonathan Horton will go up for the United States. He is the...
And I wonder what kind of pressure he has right now, Bart.
Well, we did not see this because they were covering something else, but Sasha Artemev from the United States fell from the high bar. So this adds pressure to Horton here. They've had a fall from Durrani and Artemev. Oh,
a little close there.
Close.
There's a few more of these coming up. There's another one in close again.
Oh, you know he's got to be thinking, get it close because I can't afford a complete fall.
That's right. He wants to hit this.
This is one of those aggressive routines that he's...
It is.
Doesn't have the luxury of hanging it out there like he might normally.
See what he does here. This dismount is...
Sweet!
Oh, he does do it. That is a triple twisting double layout. You won't see many of those in this competition. It's the next level up from the double laid out.
That's why they call him X Games. He can do every trick in the book. 15.35 for Kuwahara. We saw that minor bobble at the end of his exercise. This team battle heating up, and not good for the United States to have 2 falls from the high bar. And a little sloppy routine from Horton as a result of him trying to be conservative. Tomita now.
He is spectacular on this event as well. those peach elements. They do them so fluidly.
Many gymnastics fans will remember he clinched a gold medal for the Japanese team at the Olympics in 2004 with a outstanding, gutsy high bar performance.
I remember that. I was watching.
I know you were standing right there, my friend, as an alternate to that team. Oh,
and that's a nice routine.
Well, he is so dependable.
He is. He absolutely is.
Once again, you see that sense of calm. Like, no big deal. This is what I do.
Even his teammates say that about him. He just smiles very little. He's just overall a solid guy.
The Japanese team will go to the high bar, much like what we saw from the Olympics in 2004. Can they hang on to the high bar? A medal could be theirs if they do. We'll recap the scores when we come back. More gymnastics from the World Championships in a minute. Bart Connor and Raj Bobs are back at the World Gymnastics Championships. A couple of scores we can recap here. Korea struggled a little bit on the pommel horse. Jonathan Horton, a clutch performance on the high bar, a little close on his release moves, but he did not give away a major deduction after 2 falls for the United States. 14.875. Pretty exciting team battle as China extends their lead here by more than 6 points over second place Japan. The score for Tomita, 16.025 for that class parallel bar routine. Germany is just in 3rd place. Korea in 4th. Russia 5th. United States in 6th, unfortunately, after those falls. Spain in 7th. And Romania in 8th. There are the standings, folks. China will run away with this. But Japan looks solidly in the silver medal position. The bronze medal is still up for grabs, and Germany, the host country, has their eyes on it. The 2007 World Gymnastics Championships heading into the first half of the 6th and final rotation here in Stuttgart. A incredible team battle. China running away with it. Japan solidly in 2nd, but the bronze medal in the team competition is certainly up for grabs. The host country Germany sitting in that spot right now, about 0.2 of a point ahead of Korea, who takes to the rings. Then they are followed by Russia and the United States in 6th place. United States about slightly more than 2 points behind Germany. And both Germany and the United States will be finishing on the floor. So here we go.
And I think what the Koreans really need to focus on here is just doing clean routines. Rings is an event that is relatively low risk, meaning you don't see many falls. As long as you hit these positions and hold them for 2 seconds and nail your handstands and put the dismount on your feet, you're going to be in good shape. So see if they can put together 3 routines there that do that.
In the qualifying round, the Korean team placed only 18th among all the teams here, so this is really
and that's a pretty
not
good
their
routine.
best, but that was nice.
Minimizing deductions by sticking your dismounts, that's a key, that plays a key role in this whole competition. Landings.
They had 2 scores in the 13-point range on rings in qualifying.
And now here are the Japanese' best event, what they captured the Olympic gold with. Truly are world class on this event.
They are 3.5 ahead of Germany And Germany will be on the floor where it's unlikely you'll see any major disasters. High bar, there's always a possibility of some drama because of the release moves. Oh, nice. That's what's extra critical about the first guy to go up. It sort of sets the mood for the rest of the guys, doesn't it?
Very much so. And although this is an individual sport, it's team competition. You could really work off of momentum from the other teammates.
And that also can work against you, because if someone is nervous or falls, it just loads up the pressure on the following performers.
Absolutely.
Boy, this is a great routine.
This is a great routine. Packed with difficulty.
Nice.
Wow. It's no wonder why they were the best in the world on this event and have been for a long time.
They did qualify with the highest team score. The second highest team score on high bar in the qualifying rounds was with host Germany. A lot of difficulty. Three big releases.
Clean.
Very clean.
And this is just their first guy. I think what they're looking to do is just try and close the gap on the Chinese. Chinese are also on high bar, one of their weaker events.
Yu Wong Chul, 15 points. He's a tenth of a point higher than what he scored in the qualifying round. Yang Tae-young, who is going to go down in history as the guy who didn't get the Olympic gold medal. Paul Ham and Yang Tae-young in that epic post-competition court battle over who deserves the gold medal. It should have been determined on the floor of competition and not in a court somewhere.
And I think it was.
It was
fairly determined.
I agree.
Paul was the technical master that night.
And everybody had some slight mistakes, including Paul Ham, but at the end of the day, he deservedly won the gold medal in the all-around.
Would like to see a head-on-head competition, though, wouldn't you? Those two battle it out one day.
Now that sounds like some kind of American TV program. One-on-one for $1 million. You think Paul would be in?
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure Fox would carry a show like that. Man on man. Quien es más macho? Okay, Yang Tae-young finished strong on the rings.
And again, just that's their second guy. Nice, clean routine. They're doing what they need to do.
Mizutori, a 15.625.
That's a very good score on high bar. I had said earlier that high bar was going to be one of the lower scoring events in this competition due to some rule changes. So scores above 15 are generally very good.
And in fact, he was 0.2 of a point higher than his qualifying score. So outstanding start. Well, that's unusual. He jumped to the high bar without the help of his coach. That's
some do that.
Huh.
I'm not tall enough.
Me neither. Impressive. Oh, nice.
Very nice. One thing I always notice is that the Japanese strive for execution during their release moves. You'll see that their knees do not come apart upon catching the bar. It's somewhere where the Japanese really tend to segregate themselves as world-class high bar swingers. These elements here. Oh! Little bobble, but he kept the rhythm going. Don't think he missed any connection. Just a D dismount, very clean, stuck.
He was planning a routine that had 6.8 in terms of difficulty. That's hard on the high bar.
That's very hard.
But a lot of those full twisting moves to L grip, those are how you rack them up, isn't it?
That and
the quast.
Releasing elements, connecting into releases and out of releases, where you gain the most connection on the high bar. the release element. Look at his knees. They do not come apart.
Yang Tae-young's score of 14.0.
Oh, that's awfully low.
Very low on rings. Not enough strength moves in ascending fashion, perhaps, or connections to merit a big score. Kim Dae-young set to go.
Actually might make Germany's job a little bit more easier on floor.
Germany in third place, just slightly more than 0.2 of a point ahead of Korea, who is not scoring particularly well on the ring. So all signs point to the fact that Germany might be able to hang on to that bronze medal position. Kim Dae-young from Korea.
Oh, no, a little struggle there on that flange. He's trying to catch it a little too perfect.
Oh, and boy, once you run out of gas, you are toast.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Silver medalist at the 2004 Olympics. He was the most overshadowed gymnast at those games because of the fiasco with Paul Hamm and third place winner Yang Tae-young, Kim Dae-young.
And those two strength elements are really going to hurt this routine. And he knows it.
So Korea is going to make it easy on Germany to likely hold on to that bronze medal position.
That they did.
What happened here?
It was probably stemmed from the skill before. It was an uprise plunge and looked like he was trying to be too perfect on it, and sometimes you catch too perfect and your grip can kind of roll over, or muscles aren't locked out enough, or you catch the position too low and there's just no fight left in you because you caught the position too low. And I'm sure his brain was a little frazzled going into that next Maltese, out of gas a little bit. It is the end of the competition.
Oshii score 14.8. Japan solidly in second place. For two very good high bar performances. Hiroyuki Tomita now.
And here's the guy I would want on my team if I was last up in a team competition. And
still one of the most thrilling moments that I remember in the 2004 when these Japanese gentlemen stepped up and did really hard routines under enormous pressure.
And it could have been easy for them to water down and play conservative, but man, they went for the gusto and it paid off.
The American men finished with the silver medal and Romania the bronze. But all,
look at that. There's just
congratulations to the guts of this Japanese team.
That Coleman there, there's not many people in the world that do that better.
It's hard to keep good form on a Coleman and square it up. I've always appreciated this sort of classic presentation of the Japanese gymnast.
That's right.
There's a nice rhythm.
Very much so.
And once again, Tomita, what a meet this guy has had. Every routine.
That looks like 04 all over again,
unbelievable.
He's rock solid.
He is like the coolest customer here.
He is. He is.
His teammates are even taking pictures of him. They're like, yeah, you're really good, man.
It's like an action.
We're glad you're on our team. He is.
Die Goldmedaille.
Great.
Welche wird es heute hier in Stuttgart sein? Wir kommen zum letzten Wechsel und jetzt geht es um die Medaille.
Gets full credit for everything, which I expect he will. 16.8 is the start. 6.8 the start value for Tomita. Maximum 16.8 score.
And that was a nice routine. Probably the best high bar I've seen tonight. Very little emotion on that guy. He has that little grin. You can tell he's happy.
They are missing Kashima, one of their former world medalists, who's not here because of an injury. So unlikely, though, even if they had their team at full strength, if Japan would be able to challenge the powerhouse China team. But consistency is the key, and both Japan and China, the class of the field here, no question about it. Who will get the bronze medal? Well, Korea faltered on rings. Germany will take to the floor as their final rotation, likely to solidify their position in front of this home crowd. It's going to be wild and it's going to be loud.
A race for the bronze, Bart.
Don't go away, folks. There you see the man with ice in his veins, Hiroyuki Tomita, former world all-around champion, coolly reflecting on his performance, and the Japanese team in a comfortable silver medal position. Tomita's score of 15.55 solidifies that.
Hiroyuki 15.55.
And it may have looked like a better set than his teammate before him, but again, with those deductions, they're really looking at those handstands.
Right.
It also depends on how many of those types of skills you do in a routine, because the more you do, the more you have a chance of getting deducted. So some of these gymnasts opt to not even do those skills and get their difficulty from other places.
Right, releases or combinations of releases, right. So there is a downside. We're waiting on the score for the final performer for Korea, Kim Dae-jung. We saw him struggle with those strength moves, and I know for the judges it's tough to calculate once they start botching up moves, combinations of moves. The A panel jury is responsible for calculating the start value of the routine. Those are 2 judges, 6 other judges. The B panel, they calculate the execution. And there's Jim Hartung on the right.
That's right.
He is one of my Olympic gold medal teammates from 1984. He is one of the judges here on the rings, and looks to me there's quite a long discussion about what is most likely the actual A panel score.
I know what he's going through. I probably wish he had a time machine so he could go back a few minutes, do that routine one more time. He's capable of doing it much better.
That's the problem when these routines are so built around strength and strength combinations. When you're gassed, there's no way you can finesse that. There's not a technique in the world that can pump up those arms anymore.
You're digging deep as you can dig, and sometimes your muscles are saying, I don't have it today.
13.625 for Kim Dae-jung, as he gets congratulations from his teammate, but you can see the resignation in his face that they've basically all but handed that bronze medal to Germany, who will be finishing here on the floor. Germany was slightly more than 0.2 of a point ahead of Korea. Korea was less than great on rings. And so Germany just needs a solid performance. The difference between the two teams, 42.4, which means the German gymnasts need to average 14.13 to tie. So anything more than an average of 14.13, Germany will lock in the bronze medal in front of their home crowd.
This is Eugene Spiridonov. Granny.
These appreciative and educated fans here in Stuttgart, they know the potential of this moment.
Really, all Germany needs to do is clean gymnastics and just hit some routines without any large deductions, and they will have a medal. Little tumbling pass coming up. That bell going off in the back means the gymnast has 10 seconds to finish the routine. Finishes with a handspring double full.
Boy, and the home crowd knows it.
That's one out of 3.
One down. They anticipate a potential bronze medal. The only other medal they've won in team competition at the World Championships was back in 1991. The German team won a bronze medal. The most medals ever for the former Soviet Union, 7 titles. China tied with the former Soviet Union with 7. So if China wins here, which is
more than likely, then China will go ahead as the winner of the most team gold medals in World Championship competition, going back to 1983, 94, 95, 97, 99, 2003, and 2006. This would be the 8th team title. And this is one of their weaker events, and they know it. Coach Huang Yubin was quoted saying that they are well aware that they are weak on high bar, and it's their number one focus going into next year's Olympic Games.
Yeah, that seems to be the only event where the Chinese team is vulnerable to Japan, perhaps.
That's right.
On floor horse, rings, vault, and P-bars, there's no peril. There's no match for China. But high bar is their weak point, isn't it? Spiridonov, 15.25. We said they needed an average of 14.13 or better. Well, they're on their way. 2 more hit routines.
That gives a nice cushion to this young man of about 5/10. Just needs to get through his routine.
Marshall Nguyen. Oh, nice.
Tuck double-double.
The 19-year-old from Munich, coached by former Romanian champion Kurt Sillier, who lives and coaches in Germany now.
1.5 full Rudy, a little off axis, but nonetheless a hit tumbling pass. He's in good shape. Double full punch granny, and this routine is going well.
This place is loud. They like what they're seeing. Just a year ago, they were 7th place at the World Championships in Aarhus, Denmark.
It's great when you see a country improve like this country. Making the jumps from being just a mediocre team that makes team finals to a medal contender. Routines like that. 2 down, 2 to go, 1 to go, Bart.
They're feeling it now in the Hans-Mann Schleierhalle. I've been here many times for competition for the DTV Pokal and the World Cup events. In Germany, they know their gymnastics. And boy, is the home crowd enjoying this. Hans-Martin Schleierhalle is rocking.
Saves it from going out of bounds there.
That caused kind of a murmur in the crowd. They wondered if he had gone out of bounds. 2 hit routines down. Be an opportunity for Fabian Hembuchen to solidify his leadership of this team by just hitting a clean set and locking down that bronze medal. 15.075.
Score for Huang Shu on the high bar is a 14.525. Notice the dramatic score difference from parallel bars to high bar for the Chinese team. He's the youngest member of the Chinese team. He's actually great on the events where the Chinese are weak, which makes him a really important factor on this Chinese team. Floor and high bar. Nice full Takamoto. That's a half Takamoto.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
He's good. Competed on 3 events for China in the qualifying.
I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him in future years.
Chinese typically take the least amount of risk in terms of release moves. They do 1 and rarely more than 1 release move.
And they will be happy with that.
It's almost anticlimactic for the Chinese team,
yes,
because this last rotation for them is just a coronation, where over here on the floor, the most exciting thing about today is who's going to get the bronze.
And it comes down to this routine, really. Crowd is on their feet. Layout,
nice.
double.
And did he drill it?
First one I've seen today's competition. He is known for this event. This guy can tumble. One and a half full Rudy. He didn't even have to be square going into that Rudy. He just powers through this.
It almost muscled it, didn't it?
Yeah. It's a Tuck Thomas.
That's what happens when you're at home. You know, you're a little off, but somehow you make stuff that you don't normally make. That spirit, that energy.
That spirit, something in the arena.
You got 8,500 people going crazy for you. You just make stuff that you don't normally make.
Yeah. Rounding it out here. Just needs a solid dismount.
Get her done.
And there it is.
Fabian Hamburg, and this place
Look
is
at
rocking.
that. I'm excited for these guys.
The bronze medal for Germany here is as good as the gold.
As good as the gold. And they should celebrate just like it.
You can see they are.
Hey, that's great.
I bet the beer and schnapps will be flowing tonight. What do you think?
It's an incredible feeling, just like in Anaheim when we got that silver medal. When you're up on the medal stand at home, got your home crowd behind you, it's just a feeling of interconnectedness. There's nothing like it. Hats off to these Germans.
So much fun when you feel a whole building full of people sort of lifting you along. Joe Kai's score, very respectable. How ironic that the least exciting contest is over here for the gold medal. They're almost being overshadowed. They are certainly being overshadowed by the bronze medal performance of the Germans on the floor.
Hear the crowd in the back. Still routines left to go.
What a disappointment for the American men that could have been in the mix here coming into the last event, except for the falters on the high bar.
That's right.
Oh!
That's actually quite typical of his style. And you notice the coach standing under the bar, reaching in a little bit. I'm not sure, I don't necessarily agree with that. Kind of takes away from the artistic value, a little bit of the routine. At this level, you want to show that you don't need much assistance in just swinging type skills.
And it's interesting because if he peels off at the bottom, there's not much the coach can do for him anyway.
No. And the Chinese do this more frequently than the other teams. And I wonder why. Maybe they had a bad experience in the past, or
surely they did. But it does expose that they're also psychologically weak here.
Exactly.
Because the coach is reaching in on every one of those twisting, pirouetting elements.
That's a good set, though.
That's a good set. There is only one Achilles heel for this remarkable team, and that's the high bar, where they are still pretty darn good. But China, with that performance, will secure the gold medal. Their 8th World Team Championship, the most ever of any team in the history of men's gymnastics. For many years, the World Championships were contested just every 4 years. And then they were contested every 2 years. And now there's a permutation of some team finals, some individual and all-around finals, so that the team finals are not contested every year. But during that entire history, the former Soviet Union won 7 team titles. China now, historic in that they won their 8th. But why do you get the impression that that bronze medal today for Germany is as sweet as any gold medal they ever tasted?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's based on expectations. China was expected to win. Japan was expected to be close to the top, and we knew coming in that there would be a race for the bronze, and for the Germans to capture it here at home, they deserve the celebration.
14.95. It's all academic. 281.9. A huge team score for China.
That is huge.
So here are the final results. China, Japan, Germany, gold, silver, and bronze. The United States, much improved over last year's 13th place finish. 1.3 out of the bronze medal contention. I sure think they'd like a couple of those high bar routines to do over.
They got a taste for it now.
Very interesting motivation as the
very much so
stage is set for next year's Olympics in China.
It's nice to be a player again, though, I'm sure. Being part of the U.S. team last year was kind of an eye-opening experience in terms of, wow, what happened? Did this really just happen? We didn't qualify to team finals, and for these guys to come back, get a second shot at it and redeem themselves. My fellow teammate, you've earned my respect. Good job, guys.
And think about the guys who are home. This is a good team, but Paul and Morgan Hamm considering to be in the mix for next year. Raj Bhavsar, maybe you. Blaine Wilson has suggested that he's going to give it a shot. Sean Townsend.
Sean Townsend, some of the
former
veterans.
world champion, sitting in the wings because of his recent injuries and bicep tendonitis. He's not a member of this team. Who else?
As far as
Todd Thornton.
Todd Thornton is back home. Yuki Tomita is one of the old veterans.
So, encouraging day, even though not in the medal finish for the United States. A very encouraging day for this.
But 4th, now we know, at least the U.S. team knows that they belong. Last year was a fluke, and look at that, just the excitement on the German faces. It's great to see. Well deserved.
This is a great team final.
It was.
Quality gymnastics. Completely different than yesterday's team final with the women, where Kramarenko took a 0 on the vault and handed the bronze medal to Romania. The American women winning the gold in impressive style. And this is just day 2 of our 5 days of exciting coverage from Stuttgart.
Right. Much more gymnastics left.
We have the women's and men's all-around finals tomorrow.
And that's always
more than
exciting.
6 hours of live coverage direct from Stuttgart. And then 2 days of individual event finals. So, things looking great for a historic World Championships here from Stuttgart. Superman.
That's right.
Hiroyuki Tomita delivers spectacular routine to solidify the silver for Japan. When we come back, we will see the award ceremonies for these three fine teams. Bart Connor and Raj Bobs are back in Stuttgart for the victory ceremony in the men's team final. Incredible day of gymnastics. I don't remember my German too much, but I think that was way to go Germany or something. What do you think?
I think so. Maybe this is what I'm talking about.
Fabian Hambuchen, who was just an enormously popular figure in the world of gymnastics, and now he's elevated himself to heroic here in front of his home crowd.
14th NBV World Artistic Gymnastics Championships 2007 in Stuttgart. Team Final Men.
Dritter Platz und Gewinner der Bronzemedaille.
Third place and winner of the bronze medal.
Das Tourteam Deutschland.
What a moment for the German team. It's a young team with great potential. Energized and lifted by this adoring home crowd.
And that's what's so remarkable, Bart, is they are a young team. Be up there on that podium stand, you see it usually filled with really experienced older gymnasts.
Die Mannschaft aus Japan.
No question about the silver medal winning team. From Japan.
We had a training camp with these guys in January, and there's nothing that they want more than to beat the Chinese at gymnastics in 08, and they know how difficult it's going to be. But they're definitely making a run for it. They're not going to give it up easily. World-class team with world-class gymnastics.
Weltmeister und Gewinner der Goldmedaille.
World champion and winner of the gold medal.
Die Mannschaft aus China.
A very knowledgeable and appreciative crowd saluting the undeniably best Chinese team.
Undisputable.
One of the things about gymnastics, it's like golf in a way. You have no effect on your other competitor's performance. All you can do is do the best you can do.
That's right.
And see what happens. And so there's an enormous respect. Even though they're incredibly competitive, there is an enormous respect among all these athletes because each of them know how hard it is to get to the level that they have risen to.
Exactly.
Not that they don't want to win, but you have to show your respect for the quality. You know how hard they worked to get there.
Oh, absolutely. I can relate. And in fact, it's not only the respect factor, but it's also a lot of these guys learn from each other.
Honor is given by
Watching videos, you'd be surprised how many techniques cross international borders.
for the first place, Mr. Attila Ursel, member of the FIG Executive Committee.
Für den zweiten Platz
So the American team will go home, I think, bolstered by their
André Geisbühler, Generalsekretär
near miss of a bronze medal here. Without two falls off the high bar, the United States team would likely be standing on the third medal position, even here in Germany.
Enrique Salanito.
Russia goes home a little bit beat up, hoping to regroup
and Enrique Salanito, member
have
of
another
the
shot at a
Technical Committee.
Olympic team medal next year in China.
The honor prize is given by
It's also important to note here, Bart, that this World Championship sets the tone for next year, with the Olympics being less than a year away. How are these teams and how are these gymnasts positioning themselves in the judge's mind going into the Olympic Games? So the World Championships before the Olympics always sets the tone right, and these Germans, you know, that going into next year's Olympic Games, they're going to be considered players for another medal.
You see all the team competitors getting congratulations from Eberhard Ginger, the legendary German gymnast, inventor of the Ginger release move on the high bar, and a recent inductee into the International Gymnastics Hall of Fame. Great day of gymnastics here. I'd like to thank Amanda Turner for her work in helping us with biographies and stats and getting us prepared for this groundbreaking coverage here live on WCSN and everybody at International Gymnast Magazine. So 2 days down of final competition here in Stuttgart. Tomorrow will be a remarkable day. It's the all-around competition for the men first, and then the women. The list of qualifiers in the men's individual all-around competition includes the Iceman Yang Wei, China, the Japanese gymnast Tomita and Mizutori, second and third in qualifying. Fabian Hambuchen, who led his team here today to the bronze, fourth place, and perhaps he can equal his finish last year of third place or better. The top and only qualifier for the United States into the all-around competition, Jonathan Horton, qualified in ninth. David Durante, the other American all-around contestant, the alternate. So if there is an injury, Durante gets the call and steps up to compete. We'll be seeing the men's all-around competition. Jordan Jovchev from Bulgaria will be competing in the all-around at 34 years of age.
How about that? Another gymnastics soldier. We call him the soldier. It'll be fun to watch tomorrow.
Then we'll follow it up with 3 hours of coverage of the women's individual all-around final, where Steliana Nistor of Romania, the top qualifier, and then the United States has two performers. Nastia Liukin qualified in second, and Sean Johnson qualified in third. Beth Tweddle of England. Vanessa Ferrari of Italy, fifth place. She's the reigning world all-around champion. She qualified in fifth place. We will be excited to see the gold, silver, and bronze awarded in what is perhaps, on the individual side of things, the most coveted medal in gymnastics, the all-around championship, which is to be compared to the decathlon and track and field.
Especially now.
The best overall gymnast in the world will be crowned tomorrow. And then we will follow up with 2 more days of coverage of the individual apparatus finals on the weekend. The day 1 will be the men's floor, horse, and rings, and the women's vault and uneven bars. And then day 2 of the individual apparatus finals will be the men's vault, P-bars, and high bar, and the women's floor and beam. The finalists in the apparatus. On the vault for women will be Chung Fei, Hong Shuzhong, and Alicia Sacramone, the top 3 qualifiers on the vault. The bars is Ksenia Semyonova and Nastia Liukin, Beth Tweddle, the top 3 qualifiers for the bars. On the beam should be exciting. Catalina Ponor, the 3-time Olympic gold medalist, back. She's the second best qualifier behind Li Shanshan of China. Shawn Johnson from the United States and Nastia Liukin will be in that final. And then on the floor, it'll be Chung Fei, world champion on that event. And she'll have her hands full because Alicia Sacramone from the United States has never looked better. She is the second best qualifier. Shawn Johnson, also from the U.S., is the fourth best qualifier. So a lot of medals yet to be handed out for the men and women over the next 3 days of coverage here. Got a few more minutes to wrap up our thoughts here. Raj, it's a pleasure to work with you. I appreciate your insight and your expertise on the sport of men's gymnastics. You have some final thoughts about what we saw today?
Well, I mean, overall, it's what I had expected. Obviously, much respect goes to the Chinese team for their keeping up their domination within the sport of gymnastics. I know they must have felt they had something to redeem from last year's 2004's Olympic Games, where they did not perform near to the level of what they're capable of, and they're definitely going to use this next year, the Olympics in Beijing.
That's congratulations, from Silvio Kroll, the legendary gymnast formerly of East Germany. Now there's just one Germany. But I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought it was important to point out the world and Olympic medalist, Silvio Kroll.
Nice.
Did you ever kiss the floor?
I haven't done that.
On purpose?
I have not. No,
I've landed on my face on it before, but I don't know that I've ever kissed it.
A lot of feet go across that.
Then in the men's finals, we'll be seeing, for the American audience who's tuning into us here on WCSN, Guillermo Alvarez qualified 5th on the floor. Sasha Artemev qualified 7th on the pommel horse. He was last year's bronze medalist on the pommel horse at the World Championships. And the only other qualifier for the U.S. audience, and for their interest, on the rings, Kevin Tan from the United States was the 8th best qualifier there. Event finals, always a thrill. And that'll be coming up this weekend.
And one thing you'll see is a whole new lot of guys for this event finals versus the all-around competition, because the sport is so different now. You could almost segregate each of the events into their own separate sport, because you're going to see different body types on each event, different elements thrown compared to the all-around competition, which is more of, the meet's not over until you've done all 6 events.
It's almost like football these days. When you see a bunch of guys walk in, you know who's the lineman,
right?
Who's the kicker,
right?
Who's a running back, who's a fullback, maybe who's a free safety. I mean, based on their body type, you can really determine, the quality of athlete you're seeing, and that's the case in gymnastics. A vaulter is a vaulter. Usually they're these chunky kind of linebacker guys, and those guys don't do well on the pommel horse.
Nope. Every once in a while you'll get that, freak of nature guy that's but no, generally that's where the sport is headed, so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting, all around competition.
Well, Raj, it was a pleasure to work with you, and I got to tell you that as much fun as we had having you here in the announce booth, it'd be more fun seeing you out on the floor. So we wish you all the best in your comeback, and
well, thank you very much.
We hope that your tired old body holds up and that your inflammation recedes, and that you'll be at your best to give it a shot to be a part of the U.S. team for the next major international event, which is, of course, the Olympics, starting on August 8th of 2008 in Beijing, China.
All right. Thank you very much, Bart.
Well, that does it for today's men's team finals. China, Japan, Germany, gold, silver, and bronze from Stuttgart. We'll see you soon on WCSN. See you tomorrow.